Biden and Harris. You cannot hide a live body. We're not going to look the other way. These individuals are walking around our streets every single day. This nightmare is in front of us. You've got landlords out here chasing government money. That's why they're closing these shelters. They got them into landlords' property. I've been a landlord in this city for almost 30 years. And the emails I get from the city of Chicago, how's this guy? How's that guy? They're putting these people in landlords' apartments. These landlords are chasing this silly money that the government is giving them for people that don't have a job, that don't have an income, that don't have anything going for themselves. That's why Trump is going to win. You can't hide these live bodies. They're out here walking around.
Thanks for the call, Corey.
Yeah, and I love how they're celebrating that they're closing 3 shelters. Well, there's still 17 that are open. And, of course, they do it 55 days before the election.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, that riff you just heard from Corey would have been a good riff from Trump last night on the sanctuary designation, the sanctuary cities and states, and you're trying to pretend that what you're seeing with your own eyes you're not seeing. So just keep that in mind. They're just telling you, they're trying to direct your attention to another world that doesn't exist rather than the world that they have essentially instigated, and that would have been better.
A world that they created, and that's with the denial of what's going on in Ohio,
in
that small town, Springfield.
Yeah, I mean, he mentions Springfield, Ohio. He mentions Aurora, Colorado, but he didn't really get into it. I mean, and it's actually why the first 45 minutes was rather enjoyable, because in the first 45 minutes, he was actually the candidate that was more detail-oriented. It was a bit stunning, because I'm used to more of the stream of consciousness where he touches on things, but he doesn't get too deep into any one thing. And that was more the second half of the debate, which is where he lost the narrative a bit. But again, you have to go into these things with, properly calibrated expectations. You know what Trump can and can't do or will and won't do. There were moments where he tried to do some of the things that were suggested by people like me, tried to be the moderator, to essentially pose questions to Kamala or pose questions to the moderator to ask Kamala. It just wasn't consistent enough. It wasn't sharp enough. But again, the net of it all is, I think, what you need to focus upon. Greg and Schaumburg.
Morning, Dan and Amy. Dan, I agree completely with what you just said, and I agree with you, Amy, on the Fox comment. What I am very dissatisfied with this round with the Fox campaign, or with the Trump campaign, is that it just does not seem focused. It just seems like they're putting Trump up, and he just goes all over the place, although he was very disciplined last night. But if I were to have advised him last night, I would have said, chill out, relax, just look at the camera and talk to the women of America and say, your country, your kids are at threat. Do it in that kind of tonality, with that kind of pacing, and do it in you language, in a second person. And that would score. That would move needles. But it's getting roped into all of these levels of detail, which is important, but you can take it and slow it down and make it palatable because, again, not everybody is a 560 listener. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
And he let her get under his skin. The second half after that, they took a break. I thought he was just getting agitated, and I wanted it to end.
Yeah, I've
had enough.
He limped to the finish. Definitely, it was louder and more combative in the second half than in the first half, and it was on topics that, again, they're coming with J6, 2020. Charlottesville. I mean, come on.
The race question. I mean, come on.
I just there's just a couple of things that he could have done. We talked about that he has done. So it's not like I'm asking him to get outside his comfort zone. From the Harrisburg town hall last week, we've talked about it. I can't stand that guy, but you got to vote for me. I get it. I'm grading. But don't forget, I'm the guy with the policies that made America great again.
And he should have closed with that.
And so just the self-effacing, the recognition, the refocus people on policies rather than personality. That's number one. And number two, boy, this has been a 10-year saga. This is not a fleeting moment. This has been a 10-year battle, and he has been the de facto head of a revolt against the ruling class. And there was no appeal to that. This is November 5th is the moment. We've fought this fight. We've made some progress.
Yep.
They've pushed us back. November 5th is it. This is the culmination of this battle that we've been fighting for 10 years. And just,
And
you know,
I'm here
put it.
because of you. Like, I don't have to be here. I've got millions of
Don,
dollars.
I don't have to be here. That is the worst.
Oh,
That is the worst.
I just felt there was no call to action. There was nothing to motivate people.
Yeah. Well, the way you motivate them and say, we have to charge up this hill. This is the last ride of Wyatt Earp and the Immortals.
Yep.
That's the moment he needed. Sean, Northwest Indiana.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I do think that Trump was not focused. He had missed too many opportunities. In the second half, he definitely let her get under his skin. He did not push the fact that, hey, she hasn't answered questions. He had a lot of word salads, but she didn't really answer any questions. And he didn't focus on her failures and tie her more into the Biden administration right now. And why aren't they doing things right now? So I think that was a big problem for him.
Thanks for the call, Sean.
She kept using her hands and looked like.
Well, that's the attention span thing that what Sean is talking about. You actually have to listen to what she says
Right.
and then put it back on her if she is not making sense or if she is unresponsive to the question or the topic. And he did that a couple of times. I don't think it was as consistent as it could have been. I love a good movie reference. Keith in Morton Grove.
Morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for taking my call. And, if they close 3, don't forget about all the money wasted on the migrant shelter that had all the chemicals found in it, too.
Brighton Park.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as this election moves along, man, it reminds me a lot of the movie A Bronx Tale. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
Of course I have. I'm an
Cologio
American,
asked
aren't I?
Sonny. Cologio asked Sonny, would you rather be feared or loved? And at first he says both, but he then goes on to say that fear lasts longer. But I think for this election, Trump is going to need to humble himself a little bit. I think he should get a woman to help him with the debates and show some compassion because and he shouldn't focus so much on what Kamala has done and just I think he should focus on the future because that's what she's doing. She wants to look to the future. So I think he should actually put his policies into words, because she's not doing that.
Thanks for the call, Keith. Well, I mean, he did have Tulsi Gabbard doing debate prep with him.
Yeah. You should prep a little more. Text message, Dan and Amy, absolutely zero leadership on either side. I really fear for the country, not for myself, but for my children and grandchildren.
Philip in Blue Island.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Thank you. All the comments have been really good this morning. I think when she first came out and walked across that stage and extended her hand and specifically said, I am Kamala Harris. And I think he just looked shocked by that whole incident. And he never once mispronounced her name. He looked scared. He just looked scared to shake her hand. He never answered some of the questions, especially about January 6th. He actually had the opportunity to speak more, which was, I think, a deficit for him because ABC actually let him just ramble on. And I think he miscalculated his experience with Biden because in that debate, he allowed Biden to ramble on, and you see what happened. But I think Kamala Harris turned the page or flipped that whole thing on him, and they allowed him to ramble on, and it got him into a lot of trouble, especially once he got to talking about cats and dogs and just other things that. And again, he didn't even mention that it was Haitians that he was talking about, and that would have came off a little bit kind of a racist type of thing if he had mentioned that it was Haitians that he was talking about that was eating cats and dogs. So overall, I think that if Kamala Harris tied, basically she won because she wasn't even supposed to be nowhere close in this debate, and she stuck it to him.
All right, thanks for the call, Philip. Cats and dogs living together, it's anarchy. Yes. Coming up at 6:06, we'll take more of your calls and go through more of the particulars last night's debate.
And a few moments of levity will bring you those as well. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
A man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. City of Chicago closing 3 migrant shelters. CPS fires their athletic director, while Tiffany Henyard blasts Thornton Township trustees for canceling events. Cubs rally for a huge win over the Dodgers. And WIND Chicago News Time, 6.
It's the morning after the Trump-Harris debate. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I think we did great. It was 3-1. It was a rigged deal, as I assumed it would be.
Former President Trump just told Fox and Friends ABC was dishonest with biased moderators.
They ought to take away their license for the way they did that.
He claims polls show that he won the debate.
Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
And Vice President Harris touted her economic plan in the debate and plans to secure the border.
She's going to do this. She's going to do that. She's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
It's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
They also accused each other of lying on abortion and other issues. The Harris campaign says it wants a second debate and had a great night.
So we asked why, if they feel so good about how she did tonight, what is the need to put her up a second time? Their answer was basically she did so well and Trump did so poorly that they want to do that all over again.
That's Fox's Jackie Heinrich. Both former President Trump and Vice President Harris will go to New York City today, remembering the 9/11 attacks. 23 years after nearly 3,000 people were killed. Boom! Oh, man. What's going on? That's when the second terrorist hijacked plane hit the World Trade Center in New York, 17 minutes after the first one hit the other tower. Both buildings later collapsed. Another plane crashed into the Pentagon, where President Biden and Harris will also go today. A fourth plane went down when passengers fought back against the terrorists.
The only thing you could see was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees.
It crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where Trump and Harris will also go today. They've been filling sandbags in Louisiana, fearing flooding from Francine, a hurricane that is forecast to hit the coast in Louisiana later today. America's listening to Fox News.
60 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. Imonte Morgan was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder earlier this year. Prosecutors say Morgan shot and killed Officer Ella French and critically wounded her partner during a traffic stop in 2021 in the Inglewood neighborhood. Person of interest is in custody after a liquor store operator was shot and killed in Glenwood.
It was like pow, 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 real quick.
Neighbor Joanna Clark in front of that store as Glenwood police investigated the shooting that happened around 6:45 a.m. on Monday. City of Chicago closing 3 migrant shelters next month.
It appears that the number of people crossing the border has been significantly diminished because of the policies of the Harris-Biden administration.
The governor's office confirming news from Chicago City Hall that the Halstead and Ogden shelters are slated to close October 1st. All 3 only house about 1,200 residents. A corporal with the Northwest Indiana Sheriff's Office will not survive his injuries after being injured in a shootout near Sheldon, Illinois, close to Kankakee. Corporal Brandon Schreiber is a 5-year veteran with the Newton County Sheriff's Office. He was shot last week after pursuing an armed suspect with a suspected hostage from Illinois. Later, an officer shot and killed that suspect, identified as 37-year-old Andrew Ruselius. Chicago Public Schools needs a new athletic director. CPS fired AD David Rosengard on Monday. Just a few weeks into the year, no interim director has been named. Cubs rally for 5 in the top of the 8th in a 6-3 win over the Dodgers at Dodgers Stadium. Shota Imanaga earning win number 13, Porter Hodge the save. White Sox had just 5 hits and a 5-0 loss to Cleveland. The Bears may be in the market for a new kick returner, trying out David Wallace at Hallis Hall yesterday. the news service of Blue Stars Security. Support our police and hire the police to personally protect you and your business. Visit online for that free security consultation at bluestarsecurityllc.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean, and there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Biden is dead set to get as much done as possible before leaving office. That should frighten every American. Why? Because nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds have yet to be spent. When Biden pushes these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge, just like during COVID. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that high prices had on most Americans. Hi, Donald Trump Jr. here, letting you know that a surge in prices can be beaten. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. Birch Gold makes it seamless to roll over your retirement account while preserving your tax advantage status. Don't wait for Biden's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future now. Text the word PROTECT to the number 989898 for your free info kit from Birch Gold.
Paid for by Birch Gold Group.
What a waste of time, money, and vacation days. Hi, Amy Jacobson here. And if you've had a bad knee or hip replacement surgery, you know exactly what I'm talking about because sometimes the surgery doesn't even work. But there is an alternative, QC Kinetics. Check it out before you go under the knife. QC Kinetics uses your own body's properties to repair damaged joint tissue due to arthritis or an injury. Folks, it's regenerative medicine. Think about it. If you cut your hand, it eventually heals. But don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself with a free consultation. And what's really cool is the fact that Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, the National Medical Director and former orthopedic surgeon, is located right here in the Chicago area. Call now to end your chronic pain and learn more about QC Kinetics. They have new locations in Gurnee and Crystal Lake. Saturday appointments available. The number to call is 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
6:07. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average. To get that smile back, check if you qualify, almostfreeteeth.com. North Riverside, an accident, Harlem and Cermak. Tri-State jamming up northbound already between I-88, the Reagan, and the Ike this morning. And the Bishop Ford has an accident inbound. It's between 130th and the Stony Island feeder. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, a very warm day, some hazy sun, our high today 88, clear tonight, low 62, warm and sunny for tomorrow, the high 87, and then partly sunny for Friday, high Friday afternoon 83. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Currently 60 degrees at O'Hare, cloudy skies there, 67 lakefront. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy were Monday morning quarterbacking, or Wednesday morning quarterbacking in this case, last night's big game, because that's what you do. It was an important moment. It may be the only presidential debate, although, again, Kamala Harris's camp says they want a second debate in October. Now they're feeling their oats. Okay, great. Trump should immediately accept, and let's get it on one more time before, well, most Americans go to the polls in November. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line for you to call in with your reviews of the Trump-Kamala tete-a-tete, and particularly an assessment of Trump and the implications of his performance last night for his standing going forward. Don't forget, we still have the VP debate coming, too, in the not-too-distant future. That's October 1st between Field Marshal Tim and J.D. Vance. So that'll be a moment as well.
A lot of text messages. I mean, Dan and Amy, do you think she had the questions beforehand?
Stop with that. I mean, not you, but the texter. Just like, why do people keep saying that? And why do even you heard Trump saying the thing? It was 3-1, but completely anticipated. Well, then you can't complain about it. Stop crying about it. You knew it was going to be 3-1, and you agreed. Of course, it was 3-1. She had the questions.
Well, we knew what the questions were going to be.
Right. Well,
if you'd asked me 10 questions that were going to be presented, I would have done it on a piece of paper.
What question was out of left field? What question or topic was completely unanticipated and couldn't have been anticipated? None. The unfairness, it was built into the event. So now you know the field on which you're playing, and you have to game plan for that. I don't want to hear excuses. There are no excuses in this. You either perform or you don't perform. You either make your case or you don't make your case.
Well, he didn't make his case perfectly. He did for a bit, and then
I think it was
uttered out.
I think it was uneven. As I said, I think it was uneven. I'm not, hysterical about it like some people and pundits, and part of it is because.
Well, is this debate going to determine the presidency?
Well, part of it is because he's a known quantity. I mean, this is 10 years, and and some people are analyzing him like this Trump debating style. This is unusual. Yeah, I know. We've seen it 7 or 8 times now. So calibrate your expectations for what you know you're going to get, more likely than not, and then also in the context of what the alternative is, and as our friend Corey from Woodlawn was saying too, also in the context of what reality is and what the American people are experiencing versus what they're being told they're experiencing or they have to look forward to by Kamala and company. So that has to be factored in, because that's, I think, the way most people are going to process this. They're not going to do the post-mortem where they go segment by segment, issue by issue, and dissect. She said this, and he could have said that, and she would have said this, and back and forth. This was what we do on this show because you want to delve into the substance of the matter, and because you want people who are supportive of your position to be able to be compelling and persuasive within their circles of influence. So it's sort of debate prep for everybody. When it comes to an election, you have to, if you want to be an influencer within the circles of people and interact with, well, then you have to be able to go back and forth on all these issues that were discussed last night, because people are going to be discussing them, and that's what we try to facilitate here.
There were a few moments of levity.
She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run.
Yeah, well, she literally did cut and paste.
I know she did.
On the issue page on her website that finally went up. She literally did cut and paste from the Biden website. So there is that, but that's maybe something maybe you wanted to say, cut and paste Kamala last night, but again.
What about this one, Dan?
Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So which is it? She's cutting and pasting Biden, or she's a MAGA impersonator? Which is it? Pick a lane. Pick a characterization. And by the way, the overture to flip-flopping he meant there, be specific in those moments. I got 2 minutes. I'm not going to need it. She said we should have a conversation about abolishing ICE. She said we should decriminalize illegal immigration. She is for not only a pathway to citizenship, not only for amnesty for people that have come here illegally, but she is for, and she did this funded, she so declared in an ACLU questionnaire, she is for taxpayer-funded trans surgeries for people in this country illegally. This is how extreme she is on this issue. And now she is saying, no, let's build a border wall, and she's trying to align herself with border agents who know what her actual views are and have been well established. So take the rest of my time and just explain to us how you went from where you were to where you are now. Explain it to us.
What was your aha moment?
Verlon in Michigan. Verlon's in Michigan now. Does anybody live in Illinois anymore? Verlon?
No, yeah, I've been living in Michigan since April. Yeah, but this is what I want to say. My analysis is it was a tie. She didn't answer any questions, especially the big questions, and she had him on defense the whole night. Now I'm going to explain. Like the issue of abortion. That's the one issue that she answered questions and she stood tall. He defended himself pretty well, but he went extreme. He started talking about killing babies after they were born. If you want to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, independent to moderate states, purple states, you can't talk about stuff like that. It's okay for you as a radio guy or people, pundits, they can talk about it. But as a candidate for any office, you stay away from that subject. She came out on top of that.
I mean, I'll let you finish, Roland, but I completely disagree. In fact, the abortion thing, surprisingly, like as with Biden, was one of his better moments where he actually took the reins from the candidate you would think would have the advantage. His point about it being a state's issue, and I'm not going to sign a federal abortion ban. I don't support that. I'm not. This idea that I'm opposed to IVF. For God's sakes, I want it. I propose mandating it.
Right.
In terms of insurance coverage, whatever you think of those positions, those are the positions he's taken. And to push back and talk about her extremism, the only point he missed on that was when she was asked any restrictions. She said, I support the restrictions that were enforced under Roe v. Wade. Well, that was no restrictions because under Roe, you had taxpayer-funded abortions all 9 months, no exceptions, no restrictions, I should say. So that was the law in places like Illinois. So that's the extreme position. She is the extremist. They are the extremists. Ralph Northam, the former governor of Virginia, did say what Trump said he said, referencing him without naming him. So I actually thought that he handled the abortion thing quite well and has handled it quite well, better than certainly previous Republican presidential candidates in this modern era. All right, go ahead, Bill.
Well, like I said, he defended himself well on that issue, but the fact is he was on defense. He pointed to one governor and what that governor said. That's true. And, of course, we don't agree with the all 9 months thing, but she did well with her base on that issue. She just stood out.
Her base is a bunch. Yeah, her base is a bunch of pro-abortion harridans. They're unreachable.
I understand. He did well with his base, but you got to understand the 5 states that you want to win that are purple states. You can't talk about killing the baby after it's born.
You can because you can because he said it's up to those states. The 5 states that he needs to win, he said it's up to you. It's up to those states. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
What else?
Well, not only that, when it came to health care, he did not have a good answer. And she stood tall when she said that, well, remember how it was when insurance companies was denying paying for your certain things? They were dropping you from coverage and all of that. That was going on. And he didn't have an answer. He started talking about he tried to do the best he could with Obamacare. He struggled through that. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is when you're on defense, you're explaining, you're not winning. Now, if this was a game of baseball, yeah, he was a great closer, and he might have edged it out with his closing argument. But most of the night, he was explaining, he was on defense, and she did not answer any questions. The one lady moderator, she put 3 questions to him, and she said, I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to answer your points. She didn't answer none of them. So and then when he put questions to her, she just ignored it and went back to talking about how she's going to have an opportunity economy and all the rest of that stuff. And, she had like 2 or maybe 3 good moments. He defended himself well, but the fact remains he was on defense, and that's not a good thing. So I think it was a tie, and I do think they need to do the next debate because they both have some explaining to do.
Thanks for the call, Verlon. Len in Highland Park.
Well, the Democrats did it again. She actually won a debate with absolutely no substance. I want to know, because she repeated this about a dozen times, how a $50,000 tax cut for small business is going to save our whole economy. Okay. I don't understand how that works. So when they're paying $4.50 for diesel fuel, production costs are all through the roof. How does a $50,000 tax cut on nothing save the economy? And Trump was on his heels because of debunked theories like Charlottesville and stuff that they made up before that their base believes. And he was, how do you defend yourself? And the moderators, do these people ever smile? I mean, they take themselves so seriously, and I don't understand. I want to see this on Fox. I think Brett Baer he's the best, and he's fair, and Trump did not get to go to the issues, but he also didn't do well. But again, he was put in a position where he had to, the last caller is absolutely right. He was defending himself the whole way on debunked theories, and you don't have enough time to go through everything.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I mean, there were moments to say, look, they've been saying the same thing for 6 years. They've been repeating this lie because they repeat the lies. It doesn't matter to them that it's not true. Go online and look at what I actually said in Charlottesville. I'm not going to explain it again. But they are preternatural liars. They are trying to all this talk about love and tolerance and diversity and inclusivity. All they want to do is divide us by race and other non-behavioral identity characteristics. You understand the game they're running? That's the opportunity to pull the curtain back when they bring up something like that has been debunked, a favorite word. I know these two knuckleheads sitting in front of us, they're not going to say this, so I'll say it. It's a bald-faced lie, and anybody who's been paying attention knows it. And then move on to just explain the racket that they run, the scams that they run over and over and over again. And it's very much like the conversation we had about property tax increases in the Southland yesterday. More than a dozen majority black communities in South Suburban Cook County who've seen property tax increases year over year of anywhere from 22 to 122%. Blood from a stone. So it's the same question that Trump could pose nationally. So how are those honky race hustlers and their local minions? How are they working out for you? Things good? I'm talking everybody. Everybody who actually feels the impact of terrible public policy. So lower and middle income families. Is the race hustle putting groceries on your table? Is the race hustle filling up your gas tank? And how was it when I was there? And it's not about me. It's about the policies we pursued in my term versus the policies that have been pursued by Biden and Kamala. Real simple. Brian, Northwest Indiana.
Hey, Dan and Amy. So my issue with Trump is there's a lot of missed opportunities, and I think he really missed one at the end. You know, Kamala's closing remark where she said, when I represented somebody, I didn't ask if they were Republican or Democrat. I asked if they were okay. And he really could have spun that to his advantage in his closing remark, where he could have said, yeah, that's a great question. Ask yourself, are you okay? Are you okay with the cost of groceries? Are you okay with the inflation? Are you okay with the cost of housing and the immigrant crisis? And, you know, I just wish he would be able to think in real time like that, to be able to see those opportunities and really spin the debate his way. And it's just, that's the frustrating thing, is just a lot of missed opportunities when I watch a Trump debate.
Thanks for the call, Brian. Well, for a guy who has had such a successful career in media.
Yeah, he was in our living rooms for 13 years with The Apprentice.
For a guy that's, you know, seems to have a great sort of intuitive marketing sense. I mean, look, he's had
up with him.
He's had incredible staying power.
Yeah.
But he just seems to like sort of lose who the audience is from time to time. You know, all of this, it's just all of the, just take a step back. All this I stuff and all this defensiveness about, I didn't get enough credit for what we did during COVID, for example. Say, look, we did the best we could in unprecedented circumstances with incomplete knowledge. And by the way, the things that I wouldn't do again, like green light a lockdown, I wouldn't do that again. They would. They learned no lessons. I learned a lesson. By the way, the mistakes that we made, they supported every one of those mistakes. So it wouldn't have been any different under them. It would have been worse because, well, you saw what they did at the state levels where in states they were in charge of, like Illinois and California, New York. Those were the worst lockdown states. Those are the states that saw the most death and economic destruction. Those are the states that saw the most regression in terms of children's social, emotional, and intellectual development with school closures. I mean, get out of yourself for just a minute. Frustrating, but that's I'm only mildly frustrated because I've just come to expect that from Trump. But you know, there's always the opportunity for people to improve. Candace in Mount Pleasant.
Oh, Dan, I totally agree with you. You're spot on. I was watching with my husband. I was yelling at the TV. But he did have a few good singers, but I totally agree. I mean, I feel like he looked exhausted and was tired from being on the campaign, but that's no excuse. Whoever prepped him should be gone. You know what I mean? Because he did miss a lot of opportunities. I totally agree. But the one caller who talked about unity, I don't care about unity. I want the GOP to stop talking about that. I don't give a S about unity. It's never going to happen. So stop. If you're one of those GOP people who think the country's going to be united, it's never going to happen. I'm not going to unify with Bolsheviks who are okay with killing babies. Ain't ever going to happen.
Thanks for the call, Candace. Bob in Buffalo Grove. Oh, Amy's sweet spot.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Great to see you guys last night. This is why I listen to you guys in the morning, because you give a fair and balanced review of what took place last night. You know, today it's going to be interesting how the media covers this, spins it. My big, not takeaway, but question was when Trump brought up the eating habits of the Haitians, and New York cut him off. Did I catch that right? That he?
Oh yeah, no, he cut him off. He's like, that's been debunked. That's been debunked. But for residents who live in Springfield, Ohio, this is happening. This is long before Twitter caught on to what's going on. Long before the woman, that 27-year-old, was arrested for stomping a cat to death and then eating it in front of multiple people. This is a resident who was born and raised in Springfield, Ohio.
I'm angry that my friends and family are packing up and moving away. I'm angry that foreigners are using up the resources that were set up for the Americans that reside here. I'm angry that another country's flag was being flown in our city. I'm angry when I see our businesses and recreational areas littered with garbage left by people that do not know or understand our laws and culture and are making no attempt to learn about them. And let me be clear, this is not about race. This is about people being given the privilege of coming here from another country and having no respect for our people, our land, or our life's work. People living their life here the way they did in Haiti, angry, stealing, polluting, living in filth, and acting like animals. These are not civilized people. Opening containers in our grocery stores, helping themselves to what's in.
We're up against the clock, but she did talk about the animals that were missing as well.
Yeah, well, they've had other Springfield residents at the city council make mention of that too. A black dude whose video went viral. He's talking about he's out there filming and he's challenging people, the city council, to get out off their cushy chairs and get out there and see what's actually happening as he's reporting on it. And
they're all getting driver's licenses, and a lot of them are getting into accidents. Hence, then the people in the community have to pay higher insurance premiums.
Yeah. Again, the point there, we talked about it yesterday in advance of it, and it happened anyway. It's like, well, why you're going down a rabbit hole about cats and ducks and so forth. I mean, the point is temporary protected status for Haitians fleeing repression in Haiti. Okay, but how do you put 20,000 foreigners from any country into a small Midwestern community like Springfield, Ohio? I mean, the point here is there's no consideration, there's no planning, there's no thought to any of this. It is just throw open the doors, and anybody who wants in, you can come in on your own terms and do whatever the hell you want, and we'll pay for it. That's the problem. All right, coming up at 6:36, perfect segue, because we'll talk about the border security migrant piece with Mark Morgan, former Customs and Border Protection Commissioner. Mark Morgan, 6:36.
But first, let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
6:31 on AM 560, The Answer. The first and possibly only debate between former President Trump and Vice President Harris is in the books. Harris Walls campaign chair Jen O'Malley saying in a statement, the vice president, in her opinion, commanded the stage.
He gave his closing arguments, and the question was very simple. If you say you want to do all these things, where have you been for the last 3.5 years? And that's really the question that Kamala Harris never answered.
Corey Lewandowski speaking as well on whether Donald Trump was speaking significantly on issues. Trump this morning on Fox and Friends saying he was mad about the ABC News moderators.
They're the most dishonest, in my opinion, the most dishonest news organization, and that's saying a lot because they're all essentially really dishonest.
Vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance arguing the former president is a stronger candidate than the vice president.
It's not just reminding people what she said, it's reminding what Donald Trump did and has plans to do again. We had prosperity, we had peace, we had the American dream that started to feel alive again thanks to Donald Trump's leadership.
Fox News formally has re-upped its offer to host a second presidential debate. The Harris campaign is also asking for a second debate, reportedly this morning. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the British Foreign Secretary are in Kyiv on a joint visit as Ukraine presses the West to allow it to use long-range missiles against Russia. People around the globe are remembering victims of the 9/11 terror attacks today, this on the 23rd anniversary of the attacks. Israel is proposing allowing a Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, safe passage out of Gaza if the group frees the remaining hostages kidnapped last October. A single ticket sold in Texas, matching all 6 numbers in the $800 million Mega Millions jackpot for the first time since June, a grand prize winner. The man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. Imonte Morgan was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder earlier this year. Prosecutors argued Morgan shot and killed Officer Ella French, critically wounding her partner during a traffic stop in 2021. Morgan's defense team previously filed a motion for a new trial, and if a judge denies that motion this morning, Morgan will be sentenced. City of Chicago closing 3 migrant shelters next month.
It appears that the number of people crossing the border has been significantly diminished because of the policies of the Harris-Biden administration.
The governor confirming news from Chicago City Hall that the Halstead and Ogden shelters are slated to shut down October 1, the Lakeshore Hotel shelter October 24, but only 1,200 residents out of several thousand are impacted. Chicago Public Schools will need a new athletic director. CPS firing AD David Rosengard on Monday, just a few weeks into the school year. No interim director has been named. And tensions remain high as Thornton Township Supervisor and embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard clashed with other officials.
Because them residents love the events that we do here at Thornton Township. And prior to me, y'all have always had events. So I don't understand why it's a problem now that Tiffany Henyard is the supervisor when it wasn't a problem when Frank Zuccarelli was the supervisor.
During a meeting last night, Henyard spoke out against Thornton Township Board of Trustees for canceling several upcoming township events. Cubs rally for a win over the Dodgers, 6-3. Now 4 back of the Mets and Braves for the final NL wildcard spot. And the White Sox lost to Cleveland 5-0. The news, a service of almostfreeteeth.com. What if you could save an average of 90% for dental implants and get 100% of your smile back? With the Blue Cross Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, it's possible. Check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only 2 good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care, and that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 844-47-BIBLE. That's 844-47-BIBLE. 844-47-BIBLE.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Building owners, property managers, and chief engineers. This one's for you.
Hello, this is Bruce Diedrich with Waukegan Roofing, your professional roofer. Everything starts on top. Your investment, your building, and everything in it is protected by your roof. It needs to be in good shape. That's where we can help. If it needs to be repaired or replaced, or you think it might, call us. Let's find out. Here's the number.
847-623-1625.
At Waukegan Roofing, our employees are union-trained roofing professionals with OSHA safety training certifications and have thorough knowledge and expertise regarding the various roofing systems we sell, maintain, and install. We know commercial roofing systems because that's all we do. Over 110 years of doing commercial roofs. Waukegan Roofing has the slogan,
Roofs you can rely on.
Because you can. Here's the number to call.
847-623-1625.
And get the info at waukeganroofing.com. waukeganroofing.com.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
It's 6:40, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and this update is service of Audible. Make sure you take Audible on your next flight. Travel with incredible selections of audiobooks, podcasts. There's more to imagine when you listen. Audible.com. Eden's already 34 Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy 1 hour in, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike at 55 minutes, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson heavy and slow 1 hour in from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the Dan Ryan at 2295th into the Burns Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Very warm, hazy sunshine, high of 88. Currently 60. Your next news update at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The most impactful statement that was circulating yesterday may have not come from Donald Trump or Kamala Harris when it comes to electoral impact. That was this post from RFK Jr.
Hey, everybody. A lot of people are asking me if they live in a red state or a blue state, should they still be voting for me? What about swing states? The answer is easy, no. No matter what state you live in, you should be voting for Donald Trump. And let me tell you why. That's the only way that we can get me and everything I stand for into Washington, D.C. and fulfill the mission that motivated my campaign. Right now, free speech is under withering and relentless attack in America and across the globe. But at least we still have enough of it here that you can watch this video. We can still run an opposition political campaign. Well, in a lot of countries, you can't do that anymore because the state now controls the media. The state censors the internet. Brazil just banned Twitter because Elon Musk refused to censor user speech. Kamala Harris says that Musk better behave himself or he will, quote, lose his
privileges and it should be taken down. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
She thinks, and the Democratic establishment thinks, that free speech is a privilege. Well, you know and I know that it's a right. And if Kamala Harris is elected, the powers behind her will quash that right. They're already halfway there. It will be too late by 2028. Once we're in the grips of totalitarianism.
That was an issue you thought didn't come up last night. But the point here is RFK Jr.'s appeal to his voters across the board in swing states and not swing states. And you talk about moving the needle a point or two. Perhaps RFK Jr. is the candidate or former candidate best positioned to do that. Yesterday on the issue of immigration, there were a couple of different exchanges, but they were a bit repetitive. Other than this moment that could have been, but wasn't.
Why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act?
And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
And then she went on.
I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Mm-hmm. And Trump picked up on the rally piece of it. This was the most obvious missed opportunity of the night. Picked up on the rally piece of it and focused on that rather than focusing on these specious claims about that quote-unquote bipartisan legislation that was killed not by Trump, but by popular reaction once people got the particulars and heard from experts like our next guest on how ineffectual that would be. And it could have been an opportunity to not only set the record straight on that, but then to say, you know, in addition to that, this legislation came year 3 of this administration. Even if it were effective, would have been effective, which it would not have been. 3 years ago, they undid all of the things I did by executive order. They undid those border protection policies by executive order. And this is what has ushered in 10, 12, 15, 20 million, who knows? This is why there are 320,000 unaccompanied minors that are missing. They talk about compassion. 320,000 children that are missing because they've invited people from around the world to drop off their kids at the border or put them in the hands of coyotes to take across the border illegally. So I was solving the problem in my term. Then they blew open the doors and said anybody can do anything they want on their own terms, whenever they want, and we'll pick up the tab, both in terms of human cost as well as taxpayer dollars. But that moment was missed. For more on that, we're pleased to be joined by the expert I alluded to, Mark Morgan. He's former U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner. Mark, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, Amy, thanks for having me. And again, like always, I'm listening to you. I'm actually taking notes. You don't really need me. I mean, everything that you just said on, you know, what could have been said, and really it summarizes exactly what the Biden-Harris administration did. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said, Dan.
Well, I mean, give us your reaction to Kamala's, position, because I mean, what else can she say? She falls back on the fact she was a prosecutor and she allegedly prosecuted transnational criminal organizations. I think we're still searching for the seminal cases that she prosecuted that fit that description. So that's one thing. And then, this legislation, and now she's open-minded about a border wall after wanting to have a conversation about abolishing ICE not so long ago. How, in addition to that riff I went on, what else would you advise Trump to say when it comes to what they're going to say in response to this vulnerability they have?
Yeah, so first of all, the quote bipartisan piece of legislation, you summarized it very well. It died because of popular reaction. I wrote that down. I like that phrase, Dana. If you don't mind, I'm going to steal that. That's why the bill died. The bill died because, first of all, 5 Republicans voted for it. Doesn't make it bipartisan, number one. Actually, more Democrats, or at least the same amount of Democrats, voted against it than Republicans voted for it, number one. Number two, it was not a serious, meaningful border security bill. It would have done absolutely nothing. In fact, it would have codified a certain level of lawlessness and violation of the law at our border before any actions would have come in. And then also, what it did do is it was a red herring. It talks about resources. The issue at our border is not about resources. It's about bad policy. It's about the 94 executive orders, as you said, that the Biden-Harris administration enacted that destroyed and dismantled the network of tools, authorities, and policies we had under the Trump administration that led to the most secure border in our lifetime. And the last thing that I'll say is, not only because of popular reaction, I was one of those. I called everybody I knew on Capitol Hill. I actually talked to Langford before the bill was published, and I told Langford and I told every individual on Capitol Hill this bill was a disaster, and I worked hard to get this bill killed. Guess who I didn't talk to about it? Donald J. Trump. So it's a big lie, just like his involvement in Project 2025. Right. He hasn't been involved. He hasn't read it, but yet they keep pushing it out there, and it's a big lie because they think it sticks. The other thing that I would say is that they actually wanted this issue, the border security, chaos, and lawlessness, to be an issue, then why last March did the House pass H.R. 2? We do not talk about enough about this, and I wish the President Trump would talk about H.R. 2 more. It was the strongest piece of meaningful border security legislation that's ever been passed in our lifetime. It actually provided a policy pathway forward that would have ended it. That was passed last March. You know who killed it? Chuck Schumer in the Senate. You know who said that they would not vote for it? Kamala Harris and President Biden said he would veto it. If they really wanted it for an issue, then why did they pass H.R. 2 and support it? It's a big lie. It's a big scam they're trying to push on the American people.
Well, what's in H.R. 2 that you like or find attractive?
Well, that's the question. We don't have enough time to talk about every detail, but let me talk about a couple of very important details. One is it ended catch and release. That's the big issue right now. When Harris and Biden came to office, they ended a couple of significant policies. They ended all of them, but a couple of significant ones were the safe third country agreements we had with all 3 Northern Triangle countries, as well as the Remain in Mexico program. The reason why those 2 key policies, especially the Remain in Mexico program, is it ended catch and release. If you stop releasing those that are coming to our country illegally, guess what? They stop coming. It's common sense. And so H.R. 2, besides, ending the loopholes in the asylum claims and process that they can be abused, it also ended catch and release because it mandated programs and policies like the Remain in Mexico program be reinstated. And at the same time, it not only addressed the loopholes and policies, but it also added resources as well. It added more Border Patrol agents. It mandated construction of the border wall. It mandated more technology. So it addressed both the policy issue and the resource issue under the overall deterrence and consequence strategy. The Langford bill would have done none of that.
Yeah, it would have been nice to hear last night. Also, too, does Trump seek your advice and counsel, the advice and counsel of Tom Homan here, in terms of focusing his attention on the big things when it comes to a topic in which you guys are experts? I mean, like when he got the deportation question, how are you going to deport 11 million people? Well, I'm going to do it one at a time, but I'm also going to do it in ranked priority. And so people in this country who have not only committed a crime by coming here illegally, but then also committed an additional crime and are still here. We know this. We know this is a problem. These are all preventable crimes. Laken Riley and Rachel Morin and Kayla Hamilton and so many other young people who are dead now, those were preventable crimes. And so I'm going to focus on those criminals in this country illegally, and they're going back to their home country. That's going to happen, and that's where I'm going to focus. Just start there, and then, maybe Kamala wants to agree with me on this now too. But instead we got sort of more rambling. So I mean, I could just do you guys have that interaction with him or his staff?
Well, so I get asked all the time, and look, I'm not trying to avoid the question, but my standard go-to is that I don't talk about the conversations that I have with the president or the team. But here, what you just said, I agree with, though, Dan, is there's a great opportunity, and to back it up with stats, right? Say that's why we have ICE, right? The very organization that she wants to disband, right? The very organization that she referred to the men and women as equivalent to the KKK, the organization that even under the Biden-Harris administration, the first 3 years, arrested 163,000 criminal illegal aliens, including 4,000 murderers and 8,000 gang members. So, yeah, I'm 100% in support of a widespread nationwide removal process that takes criminals, murderers, rapists, pedophiles, aggravated felons, and gang members and animals off the streets. The kind of animals, like you said, that savagely raped and killed Rachel Morin, animals that savagely raped and killed Laken Riley. We could go on and on. Yes, that is a process and a policy and a movement that is 100% support of removing these animals from our city streets across the country. Absolutely 100%.
That's the piece, too, that just roils me is, and Tom Homan is great on this as you are, because you have the details. And look, it's not a resource issue, it's a political will problem. Right. The idea that this is some sort of impossibility, the way that it's cast by the press, and it's always the interrogatories are always posed with sort of that skeptical tone. How is this even possible? How did we get here? It was possible to get here, so it's obviously possible to go back to where we were before we got here, and this is the way you do it. And I just wish there would be some sort of, commonsensical, conversational, basic conversational descriptions of what is possible.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Dan, I agree. And look, under the President Trump administration, I was there on the front lines. We had that, and I'll tell you, to your issue about the political will, a big player in this is the Department of State, because we have some countries like, wait for it, China, that refuses to take back their citizens, even though every single person in the intelligence community in this country says that China represents the, quote, the threat of our generation, yet we've had 50,000 Chinese nationals come across our border illegally, 95% of them single adult males, and then China says, nope, we're not going to take back our own citizens. But under the Trump administration, because, again, I was there, and almost on a daily basis, we were having conversations with the State Department, and they were applying pressure and leverage and political will, as you just suggested, on these countries that forced them to take back their own citizens. That's part of the strategy. We can do this. Even under the Obama administration, they removed hundreds of thousands of criminal illegal aliens. This can be done.
I just for our collective enjoyment, this is the Iron Lady, 40 years ago, talking about this very issue in the UK before the UK decided to lose its mind like the rest of Western Europe and destroy itself.
How can she say at the end of her chapter of British politics that she can justify many people in a constituency such as mine being relatively much poorer off, much less well housed, and much less well provided than it was in 1979? Surely she accepts that is not a record that she or any Prime Minister can be proud of.
Mr. Speaker, all levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy! Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less.
Well, and then she goes on, that's not the full clip I was looking for, but then she goes on to talk about, look, if you can't return people in this country illegally to their countries of origin, then we're going to have chaos. And chaos is exactly what ensued in Western Europe with their multicultural agenda, and it's what we have here now.
That's exactly right. Look, I've said a long time, and Danny, you and I have been talking for the past 3.5 years, or if not longer, and you don't have to be border security expert to understand what you just said. It's just about common sense. And I really look at there's a couple of stools that are very important. We can secure the physical border. We can throw resources there. We can have the policies to back it up to actually achieve a physical secure border. And I think we are inching that way every single day on the Trump administration, most secure border we have. But if you don't have strong interior enforcement, i.e. the consequence element of that deterrence and consequence consequence strategy, it will fail because the cartels and the illegal aliens themselves will just get better at sneaking across and avoiding apprehension, knowing that if they do get in, then they're going to be able to remain here for the rest of their lives. So you have to have a multi-pronged strategy that secures the physical border itself, has policies that backs that up and allows that to happen, but you also have to have the political will, policies, and resources to make sure you go after everybody that against the rule of law, against our sovereignty, remains in our country illegally. That will be the ultimate deterrence tool and consequence tool, that if they know that if they get here by hook or crook, they're not going to stay, I promise you're going to see illegal immigration reduced. More resources are back on the front lines to do their job. They're going to interdict more drugs, criminals, national security threats, and national security is going to be better off for it. Hands down, common sense.
Mark Morgan, thanks so much as always. Appreciate it.
It's 7 a.m. WIND Chicago.
He's not sure there should be a second debate. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what former President Trump tells Fox and Friends, saying he did a great job in last night's showdown with Vice President Harris.
Every single poll had us winning by a lot, despite the fact that it was an unfair debate, obviously, and it was a 3-on-1.
Calling ABC dishonest and biased, fact-checking him and not her. The Harris campaign's offered to debate again next month. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy just told Fox.
I thought Kamala Harris did a fantastic job last night. She won the debate hands down. She was commanding. She looked presidential. Donald Trump was melting down.
The two sparred for 105 minutes.
They have, and she has, destroyed our country.
Former President Trump blaming the vice president for inflation and record illegal immigration during the Biden administration, accusing the vice president of changing her positions on everything from fracking to health care to gun control. Harris responded that her values have not changed.
That is about lifting people up and not beating people down.
They also accused each other of lying about several issues, including abortion rights.
The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
For 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart.
The former president says it should be up to people in their states on abortion, as it should be. After the debate, a pop superstar made news on Instagram.
Taylor Swift says that she watched and she made a long-expected endorsement. Quote, I will be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I've done my research and I've made my choice.
Fox's Peter Ducey later this hour. The first bells will ring at Ground Zero in New York City, commemorating 9/11 23 years later. There will also be ceremonies at the Pentagon and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the other terrorist hijacked planes crashed that day. In all, nearly 3,000 people were murdered in the terror attacks. America's listening to Fox News.
60 degrees, 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. Imante Morgan was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder earlier this year. Prosecutors said Morgan shot and killed Officer Ella French and critically wounded her partner during a traffic stop in 2021 in the Inglewood neighborhood. Her defense team previously filed a motion for a new trial, and if a judge denies that motion this morning, Morgan will be sentenced. Chicago Public Schools needs a new athletic director. CPS fired AD David Rosengard on Monday, just a few weeks into the school year. No interim director has been named. Bartlett Village officials say students at several schools were placed in secure learning until dismissal after a phone threat after school activities were canceled at Bartlett High School on Tuesday. Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx has reportedly asked a federal judge to throw out a civil rights lawsuit filed by a former Chicago police sergeant. That sergeant was acquitted of criminal charges in 2023. Foxx is seeking to have the case dismissed, citing prosecutorial immunity. A new University of Illinois Institute of Government and Public Affairs report shows how growth of the state's economy has slowed to a crawl. Researchers highlight how in the July Flash Index, the state index dipped for the fourth straight month, while the overall economy in other states is seen as partially growing. Many of the numbers from the study simply don't add up to Republican State Rep Dan Calkins.
I find it hard to believe
that the Illinois economy is growing when we're losing population, and the population that we're losing are essentially, taking their wealth with them.
All the uncertainty comes at a time when the state's unemployment rate jumped up to 5.2%. New studies show Illinois is one of the worst in the nation for retirement. Single game tickets for the Bulls' regular season home games are going on sale this week. Team says those tickets will be available starting Thursday at 10 a.m. Cubs rally for a 6-3 win over the Dodgers, while the White Sox had just 5 hits in a 5-0 loss to Cleveland. The news a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations. Choose Papa Nicholas Coffee because great coffee is their family tradition. Online at papanicholas.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. Your business and your money are in good hands with Signature Bank. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Jason Zenger, owner of Zenger's Industrial Supply and host of the Making Chips podcast, and a proud customer of Signature Bank. Through rapid growth, acquisitions of competitors, and taking over from the previous generation, Signature Bank was there with us every step of the way. Recently, the team introduced us to FinRails AP, their proprietary system for accounts payable automation. Not only did FinRails AP help us to reduce costs and create efficiencies, but it also helped minimize fraud risk. Now, our company can invest time into what we do best, supplying industrial products, metalworking tooling, contractor tools, and safety supplies to those who make, build, and create great things for our country.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only 2 good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
It's your life, your legacy. Shouldn't it be your choice? For nearly 2 centuries, Catholic Cemetery Chicago has been a haven for families, offering sacred spaces to honor these legacies. Take an active role by pre-planning your final arrangements. Alleviate your loved ones a future financial burden. Lock in today's prices and take advantage of no interest payments and no hidden fees. Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
7:07. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. Check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. Inbound Edens at 38 Lake Hook Road to the junction. The Kennedy and Hour 18 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stop and slow on the Dan Ryan inbound. In the Express between 47th and the Stevenson. Tri-State Tollway stop and slow northbound between Roosevelt and the Ike. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast with Steve Williams.
Some hazy sunshine, a very warm day today. The high at 88. Clear to partly cloudy for tonight, low 62. For tomorrow, sunny, warm, high 87. And then partly sunny, warm day on Friday, the high 83. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Partly cloudy and 59. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Of course, we're doing post-mortem on last night's debate, and my sort of summary on it, to put it in sports terms, and you know my rule about sports metaphors for politics, Amy.
Only you can use them.
That's correct. He built up a lead in the first half, and he kicked a field goal at the gun to hang on. That's basically what I think happened last night.
He just didn't motivate me to want to get up and vote for him, even though I'm going to vote for him. But there was no closing argument. There was no, this is why the country needs me, because I want to help you.
I just don't understand, the thing about Trump I just never quite gotten, which is why a guy who is so intuitive when it comes to marketing and packaging doesn't have modular answers on topics that he can plug in and out as needed. So let me give you an example of what I mean. This was Kamala Harris. She only did it really once, but Kamala Harris taking up the issue of Trump's legal challenges.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. And Trump's response?
Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
So, I mean, he sort of gets around to it, essentially, and the use of the term weaponization repeatedly, I guess, drives home a point to some extent. But, this is where he forgets the audience a little bit, too, and needs to just calm down and explain. I mean, let's take stock of where we're at. First of all the cases that Kamala's referred to, every one of these prosecutors ran on prosecuting Trump. Who does that? Imagine that's third world stuff when you have candidates for office running on prosecuting somebody they don't like politically. This is Soviet.
Right.
This is Soviet. We're show me the man and I'll find you the crime stuff. In addition to that, where are we right now? Let's just take stock of the state of our justice system under Biden-Harris. So Hunter Biden just pled guilty to take the hit for the old man and the entire crime family from Wilmington, and he sits on his hands waiting for a post-election pardon.
You're right.
My sentencing that Kamala just referred to gets pushed past the election because of course, the polling indicates it would create a political backlash that benefits me. So that's even though I wanted it, that's a political decision too. The judge in the January 6th case expedites the schedule for filings to the end of this month into next month so that you have a press corps that can write all this propaganda about January 6th and insurrection and Trump and so on and so forth. It's the same sort of propaganda you're hearing tonight from Kamala Harris that has no basis in fact. And these are the people who are going to save our democracy from the real threat to it, which, as we saw just last week, Merrick Garland trotting out, the real threat is some Putin front that pays that pays some unwitting conservative podcasters. I mean, this story, as I said the other day, this story would belong on the pages of a tabloid next to severed leg hops to hospital if it weren't true. But it is true. This is the justice system of the greatest nation the world has ever seen, and it should make people who believe in the promise of America and living as a free people in a peaceful, pluralist society completely despondent. That's what they have done to this justice system. So you want to talk about the justice system? It's not just about Trump. It's prosecuting political opponents of people whose names you don't know or have forgotten. Campaign staffers of mine. A dad in rural Pennsylvania who takes his son to pray for the unborn. Catholics who attend Latin Mass, targeted by the Richmond office of the FBI.
Parents at school board meetings.
Parents at school board meetings, yeah, that are right. That same Merrick Garland's Department of Justice writes about the domestic terrorist threat that parents speaking up at school board meetings pose. I mean, this is what's going on. This is the great prosecutor Kamala Harris's justice system. That could have been a moment. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Emma Jo Morris. She is the politics editor at Breitbart News. Emma Jo, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. Good morning.
Good morning. So what was your summation of yesterday's debate?
Well, it was complicated as a viewer because I thought I was watching a debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and apparently what I was watching was a debate between Donald Trump, the anchors on ABC News, and Kamala Harris sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that the real losers last night was ABC. I think that they disgraced themselves, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem with going after Muir and Jones and ABC is like he was going after them 3 weeks before the debate. This was the network that Biden chose. He agreed to it. It's built into the price. He sort of acknowledged it was built into the price, and then he complained about it after the debate. So, I mean, I just don't know how that sort of absolves you of performance, of an uneven performance, which is what I would suggest he had.
I wouldn't say that, but I do think that it was obviously totally unfair. Yes, he was calling it out beforehand. He was setting it up that way. He wasn't doing that on no basis. But, at least with CNN, they were not making themselves the center of attention through the night when he debated Joe Biden. This was a different story. They were interjecting. They were cutting him off. They were, quote unquote, fact checking, which was really just taking on his points on Kamala Harris's behalf. I'm not excusing his debate performance. I thought that it was too emotional. I thought that her tactic, which was literally reported on publicly,
right,
was to get under his skin. Everybody knew that was what she was going in trying to do because she is so thin on the issues. And it completely worked. He completely walked into literally every single trap she laid. He walked right into it. I'm not saying that didn't happen. All I'm saying is that it was particularly cheap the way it was put on.
Yeah, I mean, Lindsay Davis, when she was arguing with him, saying there are no post-birth abortions. That is not happening. And we have proof that has happened. And so I think they were in bed with him from the beginning. But what could he have done better, do you think, to win over more, the undecided voters?
If I was advising him, which I'm sure his advisors told him, but he didn't do enough to take control of the frame of the conversation. She mentioned something about his inheritance. She mentioned something about his crowd size. All of these things were such obvious, glaring baits, and he took them. And what he could have done is waved away this nonsense, which has nothing to do with his capacity to be president or the case for why he should be president. He should have waved them away, ignored them, maybe pointed out how she's fixated on these banal, mundane things that have nothing to do with anything, and then pivoted toward topics that he wants to talk about that are important to the American people, that are more relevant than the things that the debate moderators were asking him, like January 6th. There was absolutely no reason for him to engage with any of this nonsense. He could have just ignored it and said, I am ignoring this. This is ridiculous. We have 20 million people who have just made themselves at home in our country illegally. We have rampant drug rates, rampant crime rates. This is absolutely unacceptable. The American people don't recognize their country anymore. The economy, I mean, we spent one question talking about the economy and he didn't pivot there a single time after that. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever to be talking about and relitigating January 6th in the 2020 election. When he was posed those questions, he could have said, this is ridiculous. I reject the premise of this conversation. I'm going to talk to you about how I'm going to lower taxes.
Yeah. No, I think those are all good observations. Despite what I would call constructive criticism, I still think he had a strong enough performance in the first half of the debate, which is when most people were watching, that he ekes out an advantage, or he ekes out maintaining the advantage I think he had going into last night. But what's your view on that? Do you think that last night materially changes the race?
No. I don't think that, and this is, again, ABC's fault. They looked so juvenile, so in over their head, unprofessional. They were not able to organize this in any effective way. They didn't have relevant things to ask the candidates. So there was no real standout moment for either candidate. It was just, there was no standout moment. There was no memorable moment. There was no good shot that either of them got in on the other. I don't think that this really moves the needle. And unfortunately, there was no conversation about issues that speak to actual voters that I saw. So I can't see how anyone could be compelled one way or another.
You think Trump should take up the offer that was made by Kamala's campaign manager for a second debate next month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. He needs to try this again, I think. And he's had, like with Hillary Clinton in 2016, his first debate performance was less good, and then his second performance was much better. I think that he was facing a brand new candidate, somebody who he has never had to take on before, unlike Joe Biden, who he had debated twice in 2020. This is a new landscape for him. This is a new challenge for him. I think he got a sense of her and what she's about last night, and I definitely think he should take another bite at the apple.
But don't you think he should set the parameters? I mean, I would love to see a town hall similar to what he did with Hillary.
I would love for him to have more say in the venue and format as well, but I just don't think that that's realistic. Realistically, the entire media is really campaigning against him. It's not even that they're liberal or that they're biased. They are activists. And as you saw with the CNN debate, for instance, that was a total, personalized, tailored to Joe Biden, and Trump got no say in it. He just basically gets presented with these completely unfair terms. He gets presented with this completely unfair turf, and he just has to accept it. Otherwise, the narrative is that he's too scared to debate.
Mm-hmm.
So in an ideal world, yes, it would be more fair. He would get a chance to debate with Brett Baer and Martha McCallum as moderators. But we'll see what happens because he doesn't get his way, and that's kind of baked into this whole experience for him, unfortunately. It's such a joke. Our media is such a joke.
It really is. I mean, they're just the comm shop for the new Bolshevik Party. That's their so that's the role. That's the expectation you should have for them to perform that role that they have taken on. One other aspect of this, though, particularly for you, because for those who've forgotten, Emma Jo Morris is the one who broke the Hunter Biden laptop from hell story. Speaking of things that were debunked, I mean, the fact that it was a Russian information campaign, that was debunked. The story was right, and 50 of our best and brightest intel and law enforcement officers were wrong, as of course was that same press corps we're talking about. But we haven't been talking about it as much, maybe because of how pronounced X is and how vociferous Elon Musk has been in defense of free speech, RFK Jr. too, for that matter. But social media companies, these social media platforms' influence on this election too. I mean, they're in the tank for Kamala as well, and we haven't really been talking about the efforts that are being made and may yet be made to alter the flow of information in the run-up to November 5th. And I just wanted to get your take on it because you've had a front row seat for years on the topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same as usual. Unfortunately, typically these scandals come out after the fact. Like with the case that I was involved in, I mean, obviously we saw it in the moment that they were censoring my work, but we only really got the full extent of the election interference by the government, by the media, by social media companies way after the fact, sometimes years after the fact on certain elements of this plot. So obviously there's stuff going on. Obviously Silicon Valley is the power center of the tech universe, and it's extremely progressive. I don't think it's any mystery who the tech, CEOs want, and more importantly, who the people actually operating the platforms want, which is obviously usually where the shenanigans go on. But yeah, I mean, Google, got caught already on a little thing where they're repackaging and reformatting the way Kamala Harris's ads look to look like articles. That was a little hit that didn't get much attention, but it's kind of a big deal. Google does a lot of really subtle things like that, which make a huge impact. But unfortunately, it's like they're so secretive and so devious that it's impossible to track it all.
Emma Jo Morris, politics editor at Breitbart News, Breitbart.com. Emma Jo, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and healthcare, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Biden is dead set to get as much done as possible before leaving office. That should frighten every American. Why? Because nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds have yet to be spent. When Biden pushes these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge, just like during COVID. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that high prices had on most Americans. Hi, Donald Trump Jr. here, letting you know that a surge in prices can be beaten. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. Birch Gold makes it seamless to roll over your retirement account while preserving your tax advantage status. Don't wait for Biden's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future now. Text the word PROTECT to the number 989898 for your free info kit from Birch Gold.
Paid for by Birch Gold Group. If you have high blood pressure, you have the #1 risk factor for mortality.
Don't be a walking time bomb. Make this change and watch your blood pressure drop.
Order a 120 Life today.
Yes, 120 Life is an amazing blend of superfood juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure.
It's been endorsed by thousands of health professionals and doesn't have the side effects of medication.
It's up to you to control your blood pressure, not Big Pharma.
Seriously, 120 Life could be the natural game changer in your life. Try it yourself risk-free with a 2-week trial pack. You've got nothing to lose but your high blood pressure.
Go to 120life.com and use promo code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
120 Life is so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in just 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied.
Order the 8-ounce drink or powdered mix. From pomegranates to cranberries, it's the delicious way to lower your blood pressure. It really works.
Go to 120life.com now. Use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll do a little compare and contrast of Trumponomics to Kamalanomics, since it wasn't really done in that much detail last night. That's 7:37.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
7:30. Sunshine in 59 degrees here in Chicago. It's a wrap on the first and possibly only debate between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. The two squared off Tuesday night on ABC. Trump saying the moderators in the ABC debate helped Harris.
But this one was stacked. I figured it would be after watching 100% positive coverage of her.
Vice President Harris saying getting Roe v. Wade overturned was Trump's main goal.
Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended.
This morning during an interview with Fox News, Trump saying he's not sure if he'll agree to a second debate. The latest update from the National Hurricane Center clocks Hurricane Francine now is a Category 1 storm. People around the globe remembering the victims of the 9/11 terror attacks today.
It may mark 23 years since the 9/11 terrorist attacks, but New Yorkers remember it like it was yesterday.
I was literally on a rooftop a few blocks away from it watching the whole thing, so I know, unfortunately, I was able to tell what was people and what was debris falling, which is not something anybody should ever see.
I was a conductor at the time. My train was the last train to come out of the World Trade Center.
The commemoration ceremony will pause to honor the victims of the World Trade Center attacks, along with those in Shanksville and the Pentagon. New York City's annual Tribute in Light will signify where the Twin Towers once stood. I'm Natalie Migliori, NBC News Radio, New York.
Missouri voters will get to decide if abortion should be legal in their state. The state Supreme Court ruling Tuesday that an amendment to restore abortion rights will be on the November ballot in Missouri. If voters approve the ballot measure, abortion rights would be guaranteed under the Missouri Constitution, reversing a state near total abortion ban passed in 2022. The man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. Imonte Morgan was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder earlier this year. Prosecutors say Morgan shot and killed Officer Ella French and critically wounded her partner during a traffic stop in 2021 in the Inglewood neighborhood. His defense team previously filed a motion for a new trial, and if a judge denies that motion this morning, Morgan will be sentenced. This morning, a person of interest is in custody after a liquor store operator was shot and killed in Glenwood.
It was like pow, 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 real quick.
Neighbor Joanna Clark speaking to reporters yesterday. Glenwood police say it happened around 6:45 p.m. on Monday. Cubs rallied for 5 runs in the top of the 8th inning in a 6-3 win over the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. Seiya Suzuki ripped a 2-run game-tying single, and Pete Crow Armstrong sealed the win with this defensive gem.
Payoff pitch. High fly ball out towards right center field. Pete Crow Armstrong at the wall. Jumps. And he made the catch. Oh, baby. Pete Crow Armstrong steals a homer from Max Muncy, and that is how this one comes to an end.
Well, he did it all night, Boog, sliding all over the place. And in the words of Harry Carey, holy cow, what a way to end the night.
Boog and Deshays on Marquee last night. Find the video. It's worth watching. White Sox had 5 hits in a 5-0 loss to Cleveland. The news, a service of Valdecast Windows for the discerning homeowner looking for high-quality, professional-level window replacement service. Contact Valdecast Windows, your award-winning, platinum, elite, Pella-certified contractor. Valdecast.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense they have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Attention college and university students. Introducing 2 brand new revolutionary books published in chemistry and physiology that'll make both easier to understand. The first book, entitled New and Effective Method for Solving General Chemistry Problems, details an amazing method that simplifies chemistry problems down to fractions of multiplication and division. Students, you no longer need to memorize and use any chemical formula. The second book, entitled The Only True Outline of Physiology, reduces an entire 300-page physiology textbook down to 105 pages by eliminating excessive wordage that can be time-consuming and confusing. The Only True Outline of Physiology underlines the information most likely to be asked on exams and helps you better understand the principles of physiology. For more details on either book, visit Zarantos-Publishing.com. Both are available on Amazon or at Zarantos-Publishing.com in a digital format and in print form upon request. Say goodbye to confusing chemistry and physiology content. Get these books today. That's Zarantos-Publishing.com.
This is David Hochberg with an emergency mortgage alert. After 2 excruciatingly painful years, mortgage rates are dropping, and your current lender is going to be hounding you to refinance with them. Listen to what Rocket Mortgage tried pulling on Cara in Romeoville. Last July, Rocket charged Cara over 10 G's in closing costs to refinance, which is disgusting. This July, Rocket Mortgage tried charging her over $9,000 to refinance again. Upon her father's recommendation, Cara contacted me, and I exposed their game of offering low rates and charging Cara excessive closing costs. Cara canceled her loan with Rocket Mortgage and will be refinancing with Team Hochberg when it's in her financial best interest. If you want to work with a lender who'll always look out for your financial best interest, call Team Hochberg now, 855-563-2843, or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843, or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
7:38, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee. A Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations. Hot air roasted locally, cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Online at papanicholas.com. Kennedy right now at an hour and we'll call it an hour 40 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Right now the Ike Slam solid from Mannheim into the old post office is an hour 10. Ike outbound 50 minutes back out to 390. Traveling on the Dan Ryan, and right now 30 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Slow traffic on Southbound Route 53 is backing up the Jane Addams I-90 eastbound between Meacham and Route 53. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Very warm day ahead. Hazy sunshine, high 88. Currently 59. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy talking about last night's debate, still discussing it. A couple of schools of thought on it. Here is one. This is the Wall Street Journal editorial board opining.
Okay.
You know, and they're on again, off again fans of Trump and Trump policies.
I think they're one of the only fair and balanced publications out there.
So they write, in pertinent part, Trump let Harris off the hook time and again on her policy views. One of his weaknesses is that he can rarely marshal policy details or arguments that explain an issue beyond a slogan. He resorts instead to over-the-top claims like she's a Marxist. Well, that's not over-the-top. That is accurate. She's a cipher for Marxist. And her father, he mentioned her father, the professor, was a Marxist. He was a Marxist. In fact, he wrote a book full of Marxist economic theories in a flattering kind of way.
Yeah, but she didn't like that comment. And anytime she didn't like what he was saying, she would put her hand underneath her chin like this.
Yeah, there
very
was
bizarre.
She stopped with the mean mugging and the gesticulations about halfway through. I think she was a little harried in the first half of the debate. I'm talking about Kamala. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the Journal goes on. He didn't even say if she wants to raise taxes by $5 trillion, which happens to be true. You know what? Saying that you want to raise taxes by $5 trillion, those numbers don't mean anything to people. But he could have gone chapter and verse on economic policy that does matter in a way that is accessible. Anyway, they go on to say whether any of this will be decisive for swing voters, we don't know. The wild card is whether Harris made a strong enough impression to persuade the undecided she's worth the risk. And if she did, she will owe her success to Trump's lack of preparation and discipline. That's one school of thought. At least among those who want Trump to win, which is the default position of the Wall Street Journal editorial board, even though they're not grand enthusiasts. Another is this I got from a friend of mine, a former Republican Party panjandrum.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all depressing me. Trump was Trump. He looked strong. She was sharper on debating points, but since when has that mattered? She prepared for weeks and had a friendly moderator. Of course, she wasn't going to be a disaster. The overall impression is what's determined success or failure. What's worrisome to me after listening to you and your callers isn't Trump's performance, but that so many Trump supporters seem let down by him. He always debates with a club instead of a rapier. Is it that folks are depressed that Kamala held it together? That should have always been our expectation. In any event, now is not the time to be down about who Trump is. What will that do to our turnout? I don't think that's really what we're saying here. Oh, I mean, the point is this. In fact, Trump needs to be more aggressive. I'd like to hear more aggressive. I feel like I have more a sense of urgency about November 5th than he does because I'm talking about the last decade of this popular revolt against the ruling class, and he's talking about the size of the respective crowd sizes of rallies when he should be talking about things like the murder of innocent young people at the hands of people who shouldn't be in this country.
Instead of talking about the murder of animals, talk about the murder of them.
So that's hardly. I mean, what I'm saying is we need to reestablish the cri de coeur to take this hill. That's what I wanted Trump to do a little bit last night, and we didn't get it. So we're doing a little bit of post-mortem. It's like you talk about I don't know, Caleb Williams' performance. This is more important, but hey, they won. Kalen Williams didn't look like Johnny Unitas, but they won, and I see some good things, and I'm looking forward to next week against Houston. So that's the same thing we're doing here.
Well,
you don't have to. I mean, just you don't have to be like engaged in mindless happy talk. You don't have to be a propagandist the way that these insufferable pundits are and these mouth-breathing newsreaders are to be a proponent, to be an effective advocate. In point of fact, I think you need to be even-handed and honest about both the good and the bad, and that's what engages people to really think about things. And I would also encourage Trump to think about things a little bit more, too, in advance of, hopefully, a second debate. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer.
Got a text message from a friend of both of ours. I thought Dan and Amy, we as Republicans are supposed to be together 2 months before an election day, not doing this blank.
Well, we are together.
We are together.
We are together in wanting Trump to win.
Yes.
So, again, I use the sports metaphor because I don't know why people in political circles don't understand this. I mean, when Jay Cutler threw 4 picks in a game, did you say, hey, we're not supposed to talk about those interceptions because we're Bears fans? And they won. And what has been my view from last night into today, I should say, which is an uneven performance, not unusual, not even unexpected. Hung on to the advantage I think he had going into the race, so he still enjoys an advantage. And here's what we should be saying and doing, where Trump is not saying and doing it within our circles of influence, to do exactly that. Drive people to the polls, maintain people's enthusiasm, remind them of the threats that are posed by these Marxist ciphers, both Kamala and all of those around her, and the representatives of the new Bolshevik Party in Congress and in these congressional races as well. That's what we're doing. So, again, mindless happy talk is not being a team player. Being a team player is offering sober assessments of how the team is performing and what the team should be doing and how each individual member of the team can pitch in. Joe in East Dundee, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Dan and Amy. Donald Trump would be the best thing that ever happened to suburban women. He's going to lower their taxes. He's going to lower their food costs. He's going to lower all their bills. But we're still stuck on George Herbert Walker Bush with his hand up Terry Hatcher's booty. That they just don't understand.
And their communities will be safer, and we'll have less illegal people walking around.
Thanks for the call, Joe.
And sucking off our social services and littering our streets. It's true. I don't care what you guys say. I mean, if you live in Chicago, you see it. But I don't understand how their hatred for one man goes above their love for country.
Well, I think this is where that, you may say, you may not be able to stand me, like you said in Harrisburg at that town hall with Hannity. Yeah, I can't stand that guy, but you have to vote for me anyway.
Yeah.
Because you do care about your local economy. And, for example, natural gas exploration is important to you folks in Pennsylvania, and I understand that, which is why I'm supportive of your interests and our nation's interests in being energy independent rather than being dependent on Islamist theocracies and other enemies of this country, communist dictatorships like in Venezuela or Russia.
I don't trust Kamala Harris. I think she says she's for fracking bull jive. She gets in there, she's going to do what she wants.
Her values haven't changed.
Oh, yeah.
In addition to that, I mean, just a few data points, too, that would have been helpful talking about her opportunity economy. Again, he said it at the end, which was good. They had 3.5 years. This was the closer. This was the field goal at the gun that salvaged the game for him, in my view. They've had 3.5 years. All these wonderful things she says she's going to do, well, they could have been doing it. She could go back to Washington right now and get to work in earnest, enlisting the big guy, and let's move the needle on these things. But here's where we actually stand. The year-over-year inflation rate during my term was under 2%. It's over 5% under Harris and Biden. Real hourly wages were up 7% during my term. They're down 2% under Harris and Biden. Grocery prices were up 6.5% the duration of my term. They're up 21%. Harris Biden, and so on and so forth. Just a few that speak to the opportunity economy. Well, opportunities for who? Because the policies of this administration have shrunk the wages of working people, increased the prices for necessities on working people, and made investments like, well, I wouldn't really call home an investment, but most people see it that way. Made the American dream less accessible to people, as expressed in things like the ability to afford a home, the ability to buy property. So, those are real things. And so this is what I was saying yesterday, when she says we're not going back, well, the response is that we were going forward, and then you and Biden took America back from going forward. So the new way forward, to borrow your phrase, should be to bring the old guy back. Margot in Burr Ridge.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Yes, you hit some of my points about the economics of it all. I think, so I wish also when they had talked about the Green Deal, like he needed to take the fight to her. He needed to explain, like I try to watch all of his rallies if I can so I can get information. He would talk one time about the diesel, converting long-haul trucks, diesel trucks to electric. First of all, they'd have to make 6 stops compared to 0. Then they'd have half the payload would have to be the battery itself. Then the battery weighs so much that they would actually have to rebuild every bridge and road in America. I mean, if he had said that, or like when they were talking about when she said, I'm a prosecutor and he's a felon, he should have said, yeah, okay, how come you didn't prosecute 500 priests that you had open cases on all ready to go when you got your first job upsetting your predecessor in San Francisco? Why did you let all those pedophile priests go? SNAP was there. They were ready. They want it to be done, and you never did it. You let it all go. You let them all go. I mean, he should have really taken it to her. But I think the good thing that came out of this was he was afraid. I think he was afraid to hit the girl. And she is little. I mean, I didn't know how little she was until I saw her next to him, on the stage. But she was totally unlikable. She had a resting bitch face that would clock at 50 paces. I mean,
she had like the Susie sorority face, I thought, and then those with her hands. She kept moving her hands. Ugh.
Yeah, well, she is not likable, and I don't think she can do likable. And I think if he did do another debate with her, he could go ahead and get on the attack. If he keeps the acerbiveness out of his voice like he can do sometimes. I could see him like biting back comments because that's what they schooled him on. Don't hit the girl. But, she is not a girl, and we know who she is now because she was the same person all throughout. She was one-dimensional, and it wasn't good. So that made me feel better because I don't think she can be anybody else. She's annoying. Even when she talks about being a little brown girl on the bus, she was totally annoying,
Mm-hmm.
So that's who she is. She's annoying and unlikable, and she really can't change that.
Thanks for the call, Margot. Well, I definitely see it, but it's more trying to, get into the mind's eye of these undecided voters. How can you be undecided? I know, but there are those people, the undecided voters in places like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, and how they process, those dynamics. But, part of it is they're blank slates, they're influenced, and so they're going to be influenced by all the agitprop that will be offered in furtherance of Kamala and whatever news channels they watch, to the extent they watch anything. And within their circles of influence, which is why I say it's sort of this hand-to-hand or friend-to-friend, colleague-to-colleague combat is so important. You don't just rely on who's populating Twitter or TikTok. Focus on people who sort of fit the profile in your life, in your concentric circles of influence, and you probably get a better idea of what the challenge is for the Trump campaign in those swing states that matter so much. Jack in Northwest Indiana.
Hi, guys. I really wish folks would understand that this is not about the person. It's not about the personality. It has to do with which candidate is likely to put forth the policies that we most believe in. And for that reason, I will be voting for Donald Trump early and often.
Okay. All right. Tom, Blue Island.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Dan, if you remember, Rush used to call the undecided the great unwashed. They were the most thoughtful, most creative people, and they couldn't be convinced until the last minute, and every bit of information came in. It's such a joke. If someone hasn't made up their mind about Trump or Kamala Harris by now, I don't know what to tell them, but I thought Trump looked a little disinterested, and Amy probably isn't going to like this one, but my dream comeback would have been when Kamala Harris went personal about the money that Trump got from his dad. And I think it's great when people have family that can get them started in business. All Trump had to say as a comeback is, I'm so glad I had a great father who could get me started in business, as opposed to you, Kamala, who got started in Willie Brown's bedroom.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been a good moment. I don't think that would have been a good moment.
I know everybody wants to bring up Willie Brown. It's like, well, then.
Did you see the video?
Takes two to tango.
Did you see the video circulating of the Willie Brown, with the profile piece on Willie Brown from back in the day when he was running for mayor of San Francisco and after he won? They
were talking about his flamboyant lifestyle. Drives fancy cars.
And hangs around with beautiful women, and then they cut to Kamala being asked, a young Kamala Harris being asked if she's Willie Brown's daughter. And she just...
It's every mistress's biggest nightmare.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. I'm, letting him. Yeah.
That's fun.
While the wife's at home. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, well...
Because they were still married, right? I mean, while he was out caravanning around, being a celebrity in San Francisco, with some young arm candy on his arm.
Yeah, I don't think this is an area that either candidate would be well served to delve into. Jerry in the Western Burbs.
Dan, good morning. Comment today regarding Springfield, Ohio, and the raining cats and dogs.
Yes.
That being a political issue, the actual issue, I mean, if you're somebody living in Springfield, Ohio, and you don't really have that multicultural training, suddenly 20,000 people approximately get dumped in your town. These people were brought there by temp agencies to work in food processing and metal processing plants. I would love to see somebody do a Paul Harvey and say, now here's the rest of the story. These are the companies, these are who own these companies, and these who are the people that have destroyed your lives. Humanize the issue instead of talking about people eating dogs or goats or chickens.
Thanks for the call, Jerry. Well, right. I mean, I think referencing what some of the residents of Springfield, Ohio are saying, and sort of across the demographic spectrum is the way to do it. And it's, again, it's just sort of sensible conversation about immigration and the rule of law, and contrasting that with what the reality is and has been for 3.5 years. I mean, it's just not that complicated. And you don't need to, sort of demagogue the issue with sort of the more fabulous aspects of it. I mean, this is nuts and bolts stuff. Carolyn Moments.
Hi, good morning, Dan and Amy. I found her speech really smooth and reminded me a lot of former President Obama with her presentation, all the slick lies and everything. But as you've been pointing out quite clearly, is the facts are the facts. And she did not answer a lot of questions and won't. Trump was kind of choppy, but factual as usual, but he could have expanded on a lot of it. And hopefully in the future he will.
Thanks, Carol.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Are you a driver of a Ford PowerStroke diesel engine? Tired of taking your Ford PowerStroke diesel in to be misdiagnosed or paying for repairs that don't fix the problem? Well, bring your vehicle to the diesel headquarters, Remke's Garage. The shop is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. Remke's Garage specializes in Ford PowerStroke, Chevy Duramax, Dodge Cummins, Mercedes Sprinter, and Isuzu diesel engines and transmission repairs. At Remke's, they'll make your vehicle repairs convenient by offering a free commercial loaner vehicle.
Remke's Garage, where you won't spend $1,000 to fix a $100 problem. Call for details and to schedule an appointment at 800-5-REMKES or visit remkesgarage.com. Remke's Garage, your diesel headquarters.
AM 560, The Answer.
Today, warm, sunshine, high of 88 degrees. It is 8 a.m. WIND, Chicago.
At this time, 23 years ago, America was under attack. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's the first of the bell ringings at Ground Zero in New York City this morning, followed by a moment of silence. There'll be another in 3 minutes, marking when the second terrorist hijacked plane crashed into the second Twin Tower on 9/11. Both buildings later collapsed.
I hope I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me. Here it comes. I'm getting behind a car.
He did survive, but nearly 3,000 other people were killed in the attacks there and at the Pentagon, where the third plane crashed, and near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where United Flight 93 went down in a field when passengers, knowing about the other planes, fought back. Both former President Trump and Vice President Harris will be at ceremonies today in New York and Shanksville the day after their first showdown.
I've been told I'm a good debater. I think it was one of my better debates, maybe my best debate.
Though he called ABC dishonest and biased this morning on Fox and Friends for fact-checking him and not her. And the former president isn't sure he wants a second debate, though the Harris campaign has offered another next month. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy tells Fox Vice President Harris beat the former president last night, hands down.
He did not look like someone who was ready to run this country. He was deeply scared and confused at most moments.
Now, they debated for 105 minutes.
Just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy, too.
As the former president blamed Harris and the Biden administration for inflation.
Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself.
As the two sparred and accused each other of lying on a lot of issues from abortion rights to foreign policy. They're doing the final storm prep in New Orleans and other areas of the Louisiana coast as Hurricane Francine closes in, forecast to hit later today. America's listening to Fox News.
59 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. Imonte Morgan was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder earlier this year. Prosecutors say Morgan shot and killed Officer Ella French, critically wounding her partner during a traffic stop in 2021. Her defense team previously filed a motion for a new trial, and if a judge denies that motion this morning, Morgan will be sentenced. A person of interest is in custody after a liquor store operator was shot and killed in Glenwood.
It was like pow, 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 real quick.
That's neighbor Joanna Clark. Glenwood police saying the shooting happened around 6:45 p.m. Monday at Emporium Liquors. City of Chicago closing 3 migrant shelters next month.
It appears that the number of people crossing the border has been significantly diminished because of the policies of the Harris-Biden administration.
The governor's office confirming the news from Chicago City Hall that the Halstead and Ogden shelters are slated to shut down October 1st. It's just 3 of 1,200 of several thousand residents that are moved to other temporary shelters. Cubs over the Dodgers 6-3, while the White Sox lost to Cleveland 5-0. The news service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save almost 90% on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Wall Street will be reacting today to a fresh reading on inflation, the Consumer Price Index for August. Shoppers are apparently back to buying discount fashions. Inditex, the owner of the Zara stores and website, is seeing early autumn sales pick up after a summer slowdown. Inditex says sales between August 1st and September 8th were up 11% compared with a year ago. Zara is expanding some services in the U.S. next month, including its app that allows customers to sell, donate, or repair items. Starbucks' new CEO, Brian Niccol, says his first focus in his first 100 days will be getting back to Starbucks. He's planning investments in technology to improve its customer service, supply chain, and the Starbucks app and mobile ordering. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Now they have everything they need to come to life. Dell Technologies and Intel are creating technology that loves ideas, loves expanding your business, evolving your passions. We push what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to now.
I feel like I'm constantly cleaning hair off my bathroom floor. At least my Swiffer Sweeper makes it easy. Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths have ultra-thick pads to trap and lock hairs, like a hair magnet. And when I'm finished cleaning up my hair, Sweeper takes care of his too. Now the hair's gone, all thanks to Swiffer. Try Swiffer Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
Biden is dead set to get as much done as possible before leaving office. That should frighten every American. Why? Because nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds have yet to be spent. When Biden pushes these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge, just like during COVID. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that high prices had on most Americans. Hi, Donald Trump Jr. here, letting you know that a surge in prices can be beaten. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. Birch Gold makes it seamless to roll over your retirement account while preserving your tax advantage status. Don't wait for Biden's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future now. Text the word PROTECT to the number 989898 for your free info kit from Birch Gold.
Paid for by Birch Gold Group.
8:07. Let's check the roads now. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. A service of Quick Delivery Service. Visit quickdelivery.com when you need same-day delivery of your routes. Ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. They've cleared an accident in Highland Park, US 41 northbound, just after Clavey. That's been backing up the outbound Edens on the north end. Now your reverse commute coming inbound right now, 33 Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Ike right now stop and slow York Road to the Tri-State. It is 90 minutes into the old post office this morning. Stevenson, an hour 16 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, 42 95th into the Burn Circle interchange. Tri-State southbound, they're cleaning up after a semi-tractor fire. The cab caught on fire, still blazing. Two right lanes are blocked southbound 294 between the Grand Avenue curve to right before the Eisenhower Expressway. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast with Steve Williams.
Some hazy sunshine, a very warm day today. The high at 88. Clear to partly cloudy for tonight, low 62. For tomorrow, sunny, warm, high 87. And then partly sunny, warm day on Friday, the high 83. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
59 at O'Hare. Next news 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Something that didn't come up last night, a lot of things didn't, but did yesterday, pre-debate. Trump posting on Truth Social. If Republicans in the House and Senate don't get absolute assurances on election security, they should, this is all caps, of course, they should in no way, shape, or form go forward with a continuing resolution on the budget. The Democrats are trying to stuff voter registrations with illegal aliens. Don't let it happen. Close it down. The SAFE Act, originally introduced by Texas Republican Chip Roy, passed the House on its own in July. Every Republican voted for it, along with 5 Democrats. But there are some House Republicans, as well as Senate Republicans, who don't want the SAFE Act tethered to a continuing resolution to fund the government. You know, God forbid there be a temporary furlough of 20% of the federal workforce that no one would notice. That's the end of the world, and of course it will be reported like that by the D.C. press corps. So it just in terms of this being a moment that I'm sure will pass, but Trump at least going on the record to put some attention on it. I mean, the SAFE Act just requires people to have an ID in order to register to vote. This revolutionary concept. And why is this relevant? Well, for example, 140,000 cheeseheads can vote in the 24 election without proving their identity by self-identifying as indefinitely confined. We actually talked about this post-2020, this indefinitely confined designation that is a unique provision of Wisconsin election law. It's skyrocketed since 2016 when approximately 66,000 voters registered on the status. In 2020, it went up to 266,000. And this is saying, you know, I'm physically incapacitated in some way such that I can't get out to vote. And so I need an absentee ballot, and that's the way I'll do it. Wisconsin voter ID laws require citizens to show ID to vote in most circumstances, but it's not required simply to register. And the indefinitely confined provision provides this loophole for the elderly, sick, or physically unable to get to the polls with the opportunity to vote. And gee golly, what a surprise. Perhaps some political operatives are taking advantage of that in terms of ballot harvesting. So, I mean, just going back to why this is relevant, there is some concern about said election integrity in places like Wisconsin that was decided by many fewer votes than those under the indefinitely confined exception. For more on this and other fallout from the debate last night, please be joined by David Harsanyi, senior editor at The Federalist, thefederalist.com. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
So the SAFE Act and election integrity, I assume we should maintain our cynicism about anything substantial happening at this juncture with Chuck Schumer as the Senate president and weak-kneed House Republicans that are not going to go along with a quote-unquote government shutdown because they have their own electoral interests to be concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, I am all for government shutdowns whenever we can have them, but the truth is that most of these people are terrified of the political fallout from these shutdowns. The Republicans, going back to the 90s, have never been able to really make sound arguments, even though I do think often they have them. So I don't, it's a lot of kabuki theater, I think, going on, and it's unlikely that they'll have even, I believe, the votes in the House to do it in the end.
And then the question becomes, and this is, I guess, a question for the Trump campaign, for the RNC, so absent some legislation that sends a unmistakable signal to election operatives applying their dark arts in places like Wisconsin, what is the Trump campaign and the party doing to address things like 140,000 indefinitely confined to make sure that everything is, meets, everything is on the up and up, complies with the law?
I mean, they should be deploying armies of lawyers, right, to these states. But the fact is that whoever loses, and if Trump loses, this just gives people, I don't know, plants cynicism and skepticism about an election. And that's terrible for democracy. And if Democrats were really concerned about democracy, if it was as sacred as they say they believe it is, they would have no problem with making sure that only citizens were voting. I don't know how big that problem is or isn't, but if it isn't happening, then I'm not exactly sure why it's such a big deal to ensure that there are laws upholding that. So, I mean, I do know, because they know that it might happen and they don't care, and they like to create this kind of this kind of loose election. That's their goal in many states.
Well, right. And in fact, there are cases. I mean, you have the Heritage Foundation database on it. You had a case that was publicized this week of, I believe, a woman from Guatemala who illegally voted in both the 2016 and 2020 election in Alabama. You say, well, Alabama, that doesn't matter, so on and so forth. That's not the point. The point is to say that if it's happening somewhere, you think that's the only case in America, right? Especially with the influx of 10 million plus people in this country illegally over the last 3.5 years. Of course, what's happening in one place, where just like we talk about secretaries of state cleaning the voter rolls in places like Virginia and Texas and Ohio, they've got problems in those 3 states, but the other 47 states are fine? Obviously not.
Yeah, it definitely happens. And it definitely happens more than this paranoia that Democrats spread all the time, that people are being denied the ability to vote. Not a single American who's able to vote is being denied that right. We should all be just asking for simple things like an ID to vote, which is, of course, the standard worldwide in the West, in free nations, even in nations that aren't that free, frankly. So, yeah, it's mind-boggling.
I do have to ask you, since you wrote a book about it, I was shocked to learn that Kamala owns a piece. I wanted to hear.
Carries.
If Trump was actually paying attention to what she was saying, he might have queried her to give us more details on this gun you own and whether you and Coach Walls go to the range, or tell us about.
Maybe she goes shooting with Dougie.
Well, yeah, tell us about your record as a sportswoman.
Yeah, I would have asked her. I would love to know what gun you pretend to own. But I don't know. I mean, I looked into that, and there was an article a while back where one of her staffers claimed that she had a gun. If I was a journalist whose beat was the presidential election, I might try to look into it and see if she actually has one. I'm still skeptical that she does, but in any event, by the way, even if she had a gun, even if she had an arsenal, it doesn't mean that she doesn't want to destroy the Second Amendment. Yeah. I mean, she was out there saying that she wanted to, through an executive order, confiscate basically semi-auto rifles. I mean, that is a person who does not believe in the Second Amendment.
Yeah, no question.
Mandatory gun buyback.
Maybe that staffer had that gun pointed at him or her, given her relationship with staff. Maybe that's how they found out she has a piece. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe she used it for protection when she was working at McDonald's.
Oh, that's yeah.
You know, on the walk
allegedly,
home or
yes.
something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She grew up in a middle
Yeah.
class household.
Middle class, yeah.
And they were fact checking.
That was the story.
Trump lied 33 times. This is CNN, and that she misled the public just one time. Did you buy
That's
that?
insane. I saw that. That is insane. I mean, there was one question she answered where she lied like 3 times about things that Trump did. She repeated the myth about him saying, good people on both sides. She did the bloodbath comment. I mean, that was in one answer. And, I mean, granted, I think she avoided answering questions in general, but she lied plenty and misled plenty. You can't have people fact-checking one candidate and letting the other just say what they want. I mean,
Right, but
it's
Trump
just
seemed flat-footed on that, especially the bloodbath. He should have said, boom, I was talking about what's going to happen to the auto industry if it's mandated EVs. But he didn't. He kind of like tiptoed around it. I didn't think he was ready. Did you?
No, I didn't. And there were other instances where he should have been dunking on her where he didn't. He just didn't. It seemed like she baited him with that rally thing she said, and then he was just all over the place. I mean, he needs to be much more focused. I'm not saying he did a good job, but he did have to debate 3 people, which isn't exactly a fair fight typically.
Yeah, although, you know, the 3 of them combined, you know, have a room temperature IQ. So, I mean, I'm not giving him much consideration on that score because the things were so obvious. I mean, they came at him exactly as they telegraphed they would come at him in ways that are so easy to dismiss and deflect and stay on point and focus people on what's important here and indicate that you recognize what's important in so doing.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good debater. I never have. I think he has moments where he says something that people remember and that helps him win, but he's just all over the place. And there were many times he could have shot back with some, good fact or debunked what they were saying. And he just, he was off in some other direction. And so, yeah, I mean, he should do much better. But, we can't keep having these debates where every question is framed from a left-wing perspective and the focus is always from a left-wing prism. I mean, they didn't even ask her, you were in this administration for 4 years. Did you know that Joe Biden is incoherent and isn't doing his job? Or, but they asked Trump about his comment about her not being black. I mean, it's so skewed. It's useless.
Yeah,
and then
but
January 6th.
Well, I mean, you have to be better. I mean, you have to be better than they are because you're playing on their turf. There's no question. But the problem is they have control of the biggest blowtorches, and they are in a position where they don't have to participate. I know Musk tweeted out like, I will propose a debate, and if Kamala doesn't agree, then we'll just have a forum with Trump on X. Well, that's all well and good, but I mean, you're not going to get the people that you need to tune in. And this is what happens when you have the left operating from a position of command control over all of the cultural institutions, including the fourth estate, which is basically what they have.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think a good debate would be the candidates maybe asking each other questions or having proxies asking questions of the other. But I mean, they didn't mention, education at all, but
Right.
they mentioned, January 6th again.
Right.
And it's just, they're not talking climate change always constantly. They're never talking about what people actually care about. So even in a broader way, I think these things are pretty much useless. I bet you it doesn't do anything really to the polls. We learned nothing. Did we learn anything new about where they stood on anything? I don't think I learned anything new from that debate.
No, yeah, I agree with that general assessment. Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, just in terms of issues not covered, which is sort of embarrassing if you had any integrity as a journalist, which I'm not saying they do, of course. Now we're all here 12 hours later talking about the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. Oh, yeah, remember that? And we still have an Islamo-fascist threat in this world and, frankly, in the West. Oh, yeah, remember them? And this is obviously being driven home by what's going on in the Middle East right now. But as keen observers will note, what's happening in the Middle East, including Bibi, what's happening in the Middle East is really an attack on the West, Iran and this axis of evil that includes China and Russia and, all of their terrorist proxies. I mean, the great Satan is Israel, but it's really America, and they always have an eye towards doing something locally that they can scale globally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, her answers on that didn't even make any sense. They made sense because she has no real moral framework that she uses other than using power and being elected, But she says to Donald Trump, it's un-American to say that you don't want Ukrainians to win, that you just want to have, that they should have a ceasefire. But 5 minutes before, she said that Israel has to be in a ceasefire with the terrorist group Hamas. It doesn't make sense. One of these is, a terroristic organization under our own Justice Department, right, Hamas, and kills Americans. And yet she says they need to have a ceasefire. Israel can defend itself. I'm not sure how it can do that in a ceasefire. But yet Ukraine can't agree with Russia to a deal. So even the things that she said, technically make no sense. But I don't think she was trying to make sense. She was just, it's all gibberish and platitudes. And, I think probably most people watching that who are not completely invested in politics probably thought she won. So, I mean, that's just how it works.
David Harsanyi, senior editor at The Federalist, Federalist.com. David, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. Summer is here, which is the ideal time to let the sunshine in and brighten up the house. Make those rooms that may appear small, dark, or dingy look better and bigger with larger windows or patio doors. Our highly skilled installers can enlarge openings if your space allows. For decades, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin windows, featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional. Marvin replacement windows and doors can also bring your backyard right into your living space. Ask us about connecting the inside to the outside. Since 1969, our professional services, along with the best products and installation, are why we are proud of our great online reviews. Need new windows now? Buy now, pay later with 0% financing for 18 months. Terms and conditions apply. Visit woodlandwindows.com and schedule an appointment today. That's woodlandwindows.com.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Paul Jenkins, owner of Bancroft Architects and Engineers, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business providing design solutions for clients, including the VA. When looking for a trusted banking partner, Bancroft was lucky to find that partner in Signature Bank in 2015. With Signature, personal service goes beyond a login and a PIN number. My staff and I have the comfort of knowing that we're dealing with real people who know our business and care about us as individuals. Signature helped finance our new state-of-the-art facility, and Bancroft looks forward to further expanding business opportunities for disabled veterans and historically disadvantaged communities.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
There is no foundation like the rock of honesty and fairness. And when you begin to build your life on that rock, with the cement of the faith in God that you have, then you have a real start. Those who would trade our freedom for the soup kitchen of the welfare state have told us they have a utopian solution, a peace without victory. They call their policy accommodation. And they say if we'll only avoid any direct confrontation with the enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us. All who oppose them are indicted as warmongers. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple. If you and I have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right.
This moment in American history has been brought to you by Earthworks. Learn more at earthworksinc.com.
We know what a woman is, and at Natural Womanhood, we believe that a woman's fertility is beautiful, powerful, and healthy, not something to be controlled or destroyed by doctors and big pharma. Women deserve better. Women deserve to know and claim the uniqueness of their natural female bodies. Women deserve access to authentic, holistic, and restorative reproductive health solutions. Women deserve to know they have real solutions beyond birth control for treating menstrual cycles issues or for family planning. Options without harmful side effects. Natural Womanhood produces high-quality, informative articles, podcasts, and videos to empower women to know and love their bodies. Find evidence-based information about birth control issues and alternatives, cycle issues like endometriosis, infertility, IVF, and more. Break free from big pharma, get healthier, learn how to work with your doctor to diagnose and treat cycle issues, or learn how to start conversations with resources from Natural Womanhood. Access the latest articles and podcasts, or even get a free consultation at naturalwomanhood.org. Visit naturalwomanhood.org today.
AM 560, The Answer.
Did you hear President Biden? They asked him yesterday what he's doing.
I'm going up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. Then we're going to watch a debate. And then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. I spoke to
Tomorrow I'm doing 9/11.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to the farm, and then I'm just going to go do 9/11.
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of sympathy and empathy there. Going through the motions.
Right, going through the motions is about it. We'll talk a little bit about 9/11 and do a bit of a potpourri in terms of our debate post-mortem. Take your calls, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, text line, or answer line and text line. That's at 8:38.
And a rare media moment for Melania on social media. We'll explain, but now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
8:30, sunshine, 64 degrees. People around the globe remembering the victims of the 9/11 terror attacks today. On this 23rd anniversary of the attacks, family members of the victims are gathering with local leaders right now in Lower Manhattan. President Biden, Vice President Harris, former President Donald Trump, and Senator J.D. Vance, all in attendance. Prices were up in August, according to the Labor Department's numbers this morning, up 2.2%. Kamala Harris blaming Congress for not addressing border issues.
But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Former President Trump says the current White House is destroying the border as we know it.
Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III.
They also squared off over issues including Ukraine, abortion, and the economy. The reward for information leading to the arrest of suspected Kentucky freeway shooter Joseph Couch is now $35,000. He continues to evade police. Wildfires raging across Southern California, mostly fueled by high winds, high temperatures, and lack of clearing of undergrowth. The line fire in San Bernardino County has grown to 34,000 acres, heading towards Big Bear. The man convicted in the murder of a Chicago police officer could be sentenced today. Imante Morgan was convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder earlier this year. Prosecutors say Morgan shot and killed Officer Ella French, critically wounding her partner during a traffic stop in 2021. Morgan's defense team previously filed a motion for a new trial. If a judge denies that motion this morning, Morgan will be sentenced. City of Chicago closing 3 migrant centers next month.
It appears that the number of people crossing the border has been significantly diminished because of the policies of the Harris-Biden administration.
The governor's office confirming news from Chicago City Hall that the Halstead and Ogden shelters are slated to shut down October 1, the Lakeshore Hotel shelter October 24. Cubs rally for a win over the Dodgers 6-3. Seiya Suzuki with the game-tying single. Shota Imanaga win number 13. White Sox lost to Cleveland 5-0. The Bears may be in the market for a new kick returner. The team trying out David Wallace at Hallis Hall yesterday. The news, a service of In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday morning at 6:30 on AM 560. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Sheet metal is a big part of commercial and industrial facilities. Look around your business and you'll quickly notice how many components use sheet metal, from fan systems and hoods to machinery guards and much more. For top quality sheet metal work, get to know the pros at Vans Industrial.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, owner of Vans Industrial. Vans Industrial is an industrial sheet metal contractor that can fabricate all types of alloys up to 1-inch plate. We perform jobs including chutes, hoppers, stacks, siding, and dust collection. We work in material handling facilities including steel, chemical, agricultural, food processing plants, and more. Vans Industrial can also design and perform the engineering for a complete turnkey installation. Our quality work is installed by trained mechanics who will work closely with you to make sure the job is done right.
Call 833-VANS-IND for a free inspection of your facility. Interested in what else they do? Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANSindustrial.com. Quality craftsmanship since 1964.
A healthy fawn may be seen frolicking in its pen. Who would have not survived? Or a rehabilitated horse might be running in the pasture that had once been malnourished and not used to human kindness. Their success is from the dedicated volunteers at Paws Critter Crossing, an amazing not-for-profit organization that saves critters in crisis. Paws Critter Crossing, located right here in Chicagoland, is a rehabilitation center for injured and orphaned wildlife and a sanctuary for farm animals that have been abused or abandoned. Please help PCC raise desperately needed funds so they can continue their mission in giving these animals a second chance in life by registering for their fundraiser event on September 28th. Go to pawscrittercrossing.org and click on events. You can buy tickets for their dinner, which includes an open bar and entertainment. Experience the bidding excitement on their online auction, or just hit the donate option. Tickets are on sale now through September 20th. Tickets will not be sold at the door. pawscrittercrossing.org. Click on events. No donation is too small.
You've heard Rumpke's Garage commercials on AM 560, and now they specialize in servicing Sprinters and light-duty diesels. But the experts at Rumpke's also service Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks. So if you own an Isuzu or Chevy low-cab forward truck but aren't sure where to get it repaired, take it to Rumpke's Garage, your #1 dealer alternative for repairs to your Isuzu NPR, Isuzu F-Series, or Chevy low-cab forward truck. Whether gas or diesel, your truck is the lifeline of your business. That's why Rumpke's Garage offers free loaners while your truck is being serviced. They'll even pick up and deliver for your convenience. Rumpke's Garage has the factory scan tool to properly diagnose Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks. Their commitment to your business is backed with a complimentary maintenance plan and free 2-year warranty. Go to Rumpke'sGarage.com to learn more about their specialization in Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks and schedule your appointment today. That's Remkes, REMKES, Garage.com.
8:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Inbound Edens 41, Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy right now is at 1 hour and 49 minutes from O'Hare into the Byrne Circle interchange. Inbound Stevenson, 1 hour 12, 3:55 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, 34 into the Circle interchange. Tri-State, solid traffic southbound between the O'Hare Oasis to right before the Eisenhower, all due to a semi-fire that's been doused, but 2 right lanes are blocked with emergency equipment. Traffic, a service of Dairy Queen. Hey, DQ fans, they've got the deal of the century for you. Download the DQ app. Get buy one, get one free Blizzard treats. Just like that, you can get any 2 Blizzard treats for the price of 1. For limited time only, happy tastes good. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Very warm today, hazy sunshine, high of 88. 64 right now. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Start of the morning, Dan and Amy. Since Joe Biden is doing that 9/11 thing today, something to mention about it. On the anniversary of that terrorist attack, we often remember the heroes. Todd Beamer,
I know.
Wheaton College's very own.
I always think of his family and his wife and
Lisa. That's where they met, Wheaton College.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And how that air phone was their last communications. Like, remember when we used to have phones on planes? And
So United 93, they made a great film about it. I mean, that's gotten a lot of attention, the planes that struck the World Trade Center. But less attention, and a good write-up here, American Airlines Flight 11 that hit the Pentagon. And just remembering the story American Airlines, the Flight 77 that hit the Pentagon. Among the dead in the wreckage of the Pentagon, 3 elementary school teachers, Hilda Taylor, Sarah Clark, and James Dubuenor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but the part of this now is going on right now in New York City is the reading of the names, which is important. Those 3 elementary school teachers were flying with 11-year-old students, Rodney Dickens, Asia Savan Khatam, and Bernard Brown, 3 inner-city school children that had been selected by National Geographic for Chance of a Lifetime to fly all the way across the country to California and spend several days studying the Pacific Ocean.
oh God, I didn't know about that story.
I know it's
and I don't even want to go there. But that's can you imagine?
They weren't
the chance of a lifetime. They weren't with their parents.
They weren't the only children on board. 3-year-old Dana Falkenberg and her sister, 8-year-old Zoe, were on a family adventure with their parents, Charles and Leslie. And 2 of the 5 terrorists who would kill them that day were seated just a few rows ahead. Digging through the rubble of the crash site, responders found some of the remnants of a tiny Elmo doll that 3-year-old Dana Falkenberg had clung to in her final moments.
I can't. It's so sad.
Well, I mean, we do this as like a pro forma. I got to do that 9/11 thing. And you forget the threats that are out there, how serious this is. And you have an administration, I'm talking about the Obama terms, 1, 2, and 3, that were, I don't want to say terrorist sympathizers, but certainly coddling, providing, contextual understanding of terrorists. State sponsors of terror like Iran, our great partner in peace. It was going to be. And now you've got Tony Blinken out there talking about reimposing sanctions on Iran. What happened? What happened to the special relationship between the Obamas and the mullahs in Tehran?
Trump should have hit that home harder last night, too.
Oh, by the way, I did this interview with a documentarian, a French-Israeli documentarian named Pierre Rihov, that's posted on American Greatness. He's got a forthcoming documentary on October 7th coming out next month called Pogroms. And he reminds us that, this axis that we were talking about before the news, Iran, Russia, China. Iran is in the fentanyl production business with China that gets shipped over to Mexican drug cartels that makes its way into this country. And
yeah, because they're trying to kill our children.
And the approximate cause of 100,000, upwards of 100,000 deaths a year. Great partners in peace, not to mention their sponsorship of terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in the Middle East.
And providing ballistic missiles to Russia.
And so, I mean, the understanding of these Islamists that haven't gone away. In fact, we've gone away, haven't we? Well, they've reassumed control of Afghanistan, and they are presenting an existential threat and beating the drums of war right now against Israel with an administration that is middling the issue. So, yeah, I mean, lots to talk about on this 23rd anniversary. Would have been nice if more of it would have been talked about last night. Andy in Dallas, Texas, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
So I had a friend of mine who was texting me during the debate, and he said, you know, he should get in to start talking about deregulation. And I said to him, you're going after simple people who are undecided. That is way too much for them to get their head around. Trump can win this election if he stays on four really simple points of what he's going to do. I'm going to lower energy. I'm going to lower all prices by lowering energy prices, first of all. We did it before. We're going to do that again. I'm going to negotiate out of all of these global conflicts. We're not leveraging all the power that we have to end these kind of conflicts. I'm going to continue to bring our military home. I didn't start any new wars. I didn't get involved in any new wars. And we're going to stay out of all these global conflicts. And finally, I'm going to bring people like RFK and Musk into Washington like a sledgehammer. We're going to get the federal government out of your bedroom, out of your garage, and off your back. And if he's stuck to those 4 points of what he's going to do, he could win this thing. Stop getting dragged into the mud with her.
All right, pretty good. Thanks for the call, Andy. Nick, Northwest Indiana.
Man, I don't think I could follow that up. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. That's good.
Anyway, we thought Trump was who he was going to be. We hoped he wouldn't be. But Kamala was very polished, very articulate, almost as if she had Donna Brazile in her corner. Well, let's prove that she didn't cheat, and how about we let Fox moderate one, and let's see how she does off the cuff, okay? Let's go from there.
Demand a town hall or at least a live audience. He works better off the energy of other people around him, I think. We got a text message. Dan and Amy, when Kamala said Trump rally attendees walk out, his response should have been something like this. Even when bullets were flying, thanks to your incompetent Secret Service protection, my supporters didn't run. They stayed there under fire with me, just like they will stay with me on Election Day.
Okay. Yeah. Alan, Naperville. Hey, Alan.
Yes. Hello. Three things real quick. One, I was curious to your reaction as to why Trump was instructed to look directly to camera, never at Kamala, and Kamala always looked at him, rarely at camera. The second thing is you said people don't know what a trillion is. So what I tell my potential clients is I put $1 trillion in their checking account, and I ask them to write a check of $31.5 million every year to deplete it. To do that, it would take 32,000 years. And if you're in a hurry and you write $1 million every day, it would take 2,740 years. And the last thing is I paid for your pizza back when you were running for governor on a radio show, and the host, they wouldn't accept his charge card, so I doubt if you remember that. I paid for the pizza.
Oh,
well, you better thank him, Dan.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Wow, I need to report that as an in-kind contribution, amend my State Board of Elections filings from 15 years ago. Thanks for the pizza and the call, Alan. Appreciate it.
And possibly the votes.
Yeah, that was the last.
Sounds like he voted for you.
Last voter I needed to meet. Last one of my voters. I think I've met them all now. Dawn in Naperville.
Hi, good morning. I do believe that she was successful in trying to delineate herself from the chaos because she really didn't talk about it a whole lot of what is going on in this country. But one thing I will say is I think when they were proposing the questions about the Ukrainian war and spending all the money over there, I do believe that was obvious. I think people tune out because when people start asking about what's going on in Ukraine, they start asking themselves, hey, like, what about what's happening here? Because I think what's different at this point in time versus previous point in times, if we want to talk about, looking at history, is it's almost as if the state of America right now is worse than Venezuela. And I think a lot of people identified with that. So I don't know if Trump is allowed to keep a little sticky note in front of him, but he just needs to stick on what the State of the Union, on what's going on in America. Interest rates, grocery costs, home and auto insurance, also the literacy crisis in our schools. They didn't even bring up education.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was unbelievable to me. Particularly, he needs to focus on literacy crisis for low-income students and students with learning disabilities, and then crime and drugs. That's what he needs to focus on. And I think he's going to win the hearts and minds of Americans. They don't really care about, they don't want to spend money in these useless wars. And also bring up what Kennedy brought up, food, what's going on with Big Pharma. Of course, the moderators didn't even bring up those questions because they don't want to talk about those issues. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Dawn.
But they wanted to talk about race.
Well, always.
And J6 and
always.
the 2020 election, was it or was it not stolen?
The things that you would expect them to focus on, and this is where you have to be prepared and have a thought or two about how you're going to handle those things rather than get lost in the moment, as it seemed to happen a little bit. Eric, Hoffman Estates.
Yes, good morning, Dan and Amy. I wanted to talk about, I caught bits and pieces because I got home late of the debate last night, but I did not hear Trump go after her about how Bernie Sanders basically said that, she's just like him and she'll say whatever she needs to say to win this.
Yeah.
They really need to nail that home, as well as guess who backed her? Putin, who they keep thinking that Trump is in bed with. But Putin's backing her because he knows that he doesn't want any part of Trump again.
Thanks for the call, Eric. Well, I mean, I take Bernie at face value. I'm not sure I take Putin at face value, but it's fun nonetheless. Yeah, you're so rough and tumble with Vlad Putin. He's captivated by your infectious cackle. And so he said in a recent stilted interview on Russia Today, I mean, I know what Putin is doing, of course, but nonetheless, he said what he said. Bernie, Eric is right. We played the clip when he was on Meet the Press and said, she supports all the things she supports all the things I support. She's just being pragmatic to win an election. Right.
Yeah. Just tell it like it is, Bernie.
But I don't think you need Bernie to, I mean, it's nice for him to ratify it. I don't think you need him to explain it. It's rather obvious. And this is why much more of last night should have been Trump posing the questions about this metamorphosis that Kamala has undergone over the last few months.
Yeah, how is she separated so quickly from her liberal progressiveness?
Al in Rosemont.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I can't wait for the Kansas City Chiefs fans to start booing Taylor Swift every time her face is on the screen. This is going to be epic.
Well,
Down
she's not
goes
sitting in the
Taylor.
box anymore with Brittany Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly.
They were in separate boxes
drama.
for the first
This
time.
is epic drama.
Yeah.
Such girl high school
Thanks for the
crap. I
call.
can't stand it. Who cares who Taylor Swift? And then she signs catless or childless cat lady.
Mm-hmm.
This is the election of the meow meow. Okay, whether cats are getting eaten by Haitians or, I mean, it's ridiculous.
The year of the cat.
The year of the cat.
David Lansing.
3 on 1. This was 100 on 1. ABC News, owned by Disney. I watched the the Microsoft NBC news coverage after the debate, and Rachel Maddow was saying how Trump was hunched over and his eyes were squinting. Well, the reason his eyes were squinting is because they had the lights turned up on his side, in my opinion. I worked in a TV studio. And he was hunched over because the podiums were equal size. They even said this on ABC News. And Trump is much taller, so he had to lean over to get down to the podium. And was Kamala Harris fed the questions ahead of time? She looked surprisingly
fed the
ready for
questions.
those,
they were such complicated questions. Who could have seen these questions coming? I mean, they couldn't have been more prosaic. I mean, this idea that come on. Thanks for the fed the questions. Economy, go. That's about the depth of these questions from these nitwits on nitwit newsreaders. I mean, give me a break. She got the cheat sheet. What cheat sheet? What for those people saying that? Tell me what question that was asked that was a surprise to you. That was a real curveball. No one could have seen this coming, and yet she was so prepared for it. There must be something afoot. Come on. Now I get it, and we all get ABC News. In fact, there was reporting about Kamala Harris's special relationship with Dana Walden, who's a Disney executive whose portfolio includes ABC News. So yeah, of course, but we already know this. Make the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is not the moderators, and it's not these news organizations that you already understand are in the tank. They are part of the new Bolshevik Party. They are state-run media. They have folded in to the state and purveyors of all things government-centric. Okay, now that we factor that in, let's cobble together some thoughts and a strategic approach to dealing with the landscape as it is. Bitching about what we know to be true is not very persuasive. That's not very productive. Jack in Whiting, Indiana.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. We really need Trump to win to save America, but I was really disappointed in the performance last night. I really don't like the way he keeps repeating himself when he answers a question 2 and 3 times. He's wasting time. And then I got to hear this, billions and billions and billions. How about a good number to combat what Kamala said? And what I noticed is that whenever she was talking, the camera was nice and focused on her. I'm surprised they didn't do a Sybil Shepherd where they fuzzied the camera to make it look like she had a portrait on her with a halo on her head.
A little soft lighting, yeah, with a flowery background. Thanks for the call, Jack. Yeah, but I got to say, and I commented on this in real time last night. The first 45 minutes, the first half of the debate, Trump was good. He was stoic, and he let her go on and take her little shots, and he didn't have any reaction. Whereas when he just said anything that was critical of her, critical of the current regime, she was gesticulating and mean-mugging him and all these things. She looked very petty and a bit frenetic and a bit anxious. So this is why that first half of the debate, I think Trump was, decidedly better. It was the second half where things went off the rails a bit. It seemed like he lost focus.
Well, and she became more assertive, I thought.
Yeah, and then his attention span got the better of him, or lack thereof. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Good morning, Amy, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. Trump's performance last night is a reminder why you can't put your faith into one person. You need to get involved in the local level. So last night, 4 years ago, I got involved in my precinct. If I can get my precinct, and I'm in a 48-52 precinct, depending on who the candidate, because Democrat or Republican. If I can increase the Republican vote by 5%, I think I've done a good job. Now, politics is a spectator sport. Everybody calling in Monday morning quarterbacking and started, Trump should have done this, Trump should have done that. What are you doing? Tom from Blue Island called in and said, I don't know what to say to these people. Well, get involved in the local level and try to find out how you can get people and flip 10 people to vote. I mean, you can't put your faith in one person. It has to be a ground game. It has to be an organization. Because what happens after Trump leaves? If he doesn't win, and then if he does win, what happens after 4 years? How are things going to continue to change?
Thanks for the call, Kevin. Austin, Texas. Now I have that Dasha song, Austin, in my head. I like that song. Have you heard that? In 40 years, you'll still be here, drunk, washed up in Austin. I mean, that's not a commentary on Kevin. It's just that song that's in my head.
Yeah, and he was on the Munchkin.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. 800-444-2013 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
Maine.
Dan Proft here for Willows Academy. You've heard me talk about Willows Academy for years. Willows is an authentically Catholic, all-girls school in Des Plaines that supports traditional values. For nearly 50 years, Willows has partnered with families in the Chicagoland area to educate young women who will change the world. On September 20th, they're hosting prominent author of Awake But Not Woke, Noelle Meering. They've invited our listeners to an exclusive presentation at the school on how your family can react and respond effectively to the woke ideology permeating our society. This inspiring yet practical presentation will describe how we, as parents, can respond and protect our families and provide vital guidance and much-needed leadership to often misguided friends and family members. To RSVP, just visit willowsacademy.org/woke. That's willowsacademy.org/woke. Don't miss author Noelle Meering as she discusses her book, Awake But Not Woke, at Willows Academy in Des Plaines on Friday, September 20th at 6 p.m. willowsacademy.org/woke.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is MediShare. And maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save many families up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. See what you can save. This is a very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. Call 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, have a great day. It is now 9 a.m. WIND Chicago.
We vowed to never forget. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's at a ceremony at the Pentagon.